We are going live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It is March 10th. I apologize for our delay. We were in a closed session. There is nothing to report out, no actions taken during our closed session. I would like you to please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I am not aware of any emergency additions or modifications to the agenda. So is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Shelley.
Second.
Kevin, thank you for the second. All those in favor? Kevin?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. Sorry, a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 10th and February 16th.
I will move to approve the minutes for both meetings.
Thank you,
I'll
Shelley.
second.
Thank you, Rebecca. All those in favor? Kevin?
Aye. I think I missed one of those though. Was that one of mine?
You're correct, the 10th.
Yeah. So abstain as to that.
Okay. I'm going to ask to move then. Shelley, if you could just move to approve the February 2nd.
I will move to approve February 2nd minutes.
And Rebecca, will you second that?
I will second that.
Okay, so we will take a motion on that one.
Do you mean February 10th, Jane?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, February 10th. So Kevin, you will abstain from that vote. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Michael?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. So we have an approval 4-0 with 1 abstention on the February 2nd meeting minutes, and then a motion for February 16th.
I'll move to approve February 16th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Kevin?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. Thank you. And then we have our OUSD Value Awards. We have students from San Antonio and from Chaparral. And I am going to introduce, let me find my little notes here.
We could introduce Principal Robin Munson to introduce her staff and students.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I would like to introduce Ann Gard, our 5th grade teacher at San Antonio, who will be introducing Peyton Dale, who we would like to officially keep at San Antonio for many years to come. But we'll let Mrs. Gard fill you in on all of her wonderful attributes.
Yes, well, Peyton is a gem. She is a San Antonio Hawk, and we are so proud of her. When I announced to our staff, this is who I would like to nominate for our Creativity OUSD Value Award, everybody chimed in, well, yes, she is creative, but she's also this and she's also that. And she falls under this Inclusivity Award as well. And we just had to pick one. But truly, she falls into each and every single category. And I brought her story to read that really kind of triggered my mind that Peyton, this is the kid for us. But I will say her family is delightful and has done a fabulous job raising this young lady. I actually got teary-eyed in her parent-teacher conferences this year because she is such a wonderful example of a student with heart and dedication. She juggles a lot on her plate. She has a lot of siblings, and she goes back and forth between 2 different homes seamlessly. She is dedicated, and she's a friend to everybody on campus, all ages, boys and girls included. And this is just a role model OUSD student. So real quick, it's a short story, but this is a story she wrote and she doesn't know I'm reading this. But this is an example of her creativity. She wrote a story about being a water molecule traveling through the water cycle. And it starts off, I am a water molecule and I live in the ocean. For the first time, I go through the water cycle. It started when I got evaporated. There were a lot more molecules than just me. Next thing I know, I entered a soft white thing called a cloud. After all of us molecules got evaporated, the cloud got heavy and it was like the cloud was crying and I was one of its tears. As I was falling, I saw the land beneath me. I got scared, but then crashed against the wet, cold sand. I had to think for a while about what just happened. Just then, I realized I like the water cycle. So the next day, I did it all again. That is my water cycle story. So bravo, Peyton. I am so happy you're in my class. You bring tears to my eyes, happy tears thinking about you. You bring a lot of joy to this world. So congrats to you and your family. We love you and you deserve this.
Thank you.
So I would like to introduce Michael Weaver from the Ojai Rotary Club Peace Committee, and they co-sponsor this award, and they give every student $50 for themselves, and more importantly, $50 to donate to someplace of their choice. Michael, would you like to say a couple of words?
Yes, thank you, Tiffany. The Rotary Club of Ojai is proud to join OUSD in recognizing Peyton. Certainly a very talented young lady. And we also like to say that we are considering you a peace ambassador in Ojai.
Great. And Peyton, do you want to tell us where you have selected for your $50 donation to go?
I'm not quite sure yet.
Okay. You'll let us know and we'll send a check in your honor.
Thank you.
And next we have Principal Javier Ramirez here to introduce his student.
I'm actually well, first of all, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us and be part of this process. Kids, I love this part of the board meetings. I think it's terrific. Whoever came up with this idea, congratulations to you all. I'm here to introduce Mrs. Graham, who then is going to talk about the wonderful things that our student is doing around our campus and why we decided to recognize her. So I can sit here and talk about Mary Dunleavy and how wonderful she is. But I promised Mrs. Graham that I wouldn't steal the show. So I want to introduce Mrs. Graham, who is one of our amazing teachers or chaparral who has been extremely supportive of all of our students and our staff too. Since I'm new at chaparral, she has been like my godmother. She has really helped me out through the process. So here is the one and only Mrs. Graham to talk about Mary Dunleavy. Congratulations, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you, Javier. I'm your younger sister, godmother.
Right. Forgot to tell that part.
Yeah, right. Okay. So thank you. I am so grateful, like Javier said himself, for being invited tonight to share the special things our chaparral students are doing each day. And fortunately, as a staff member, this opportunity always brings, I think, anyone that comes to these great joy. I can see it on your faces, and I think others feel the same. And it's such a super blessing for our students as well. So, as you already know, the chosen student that I'm here to present tonight is Mary. And Mary has gone through, and I'm going to use these metaphors, a blossoming journey since the beginning of this current school year. In August of 2020, when school started, we all met with Mary as a staff for her Ed Plan meeting. And we could see that Mary was very quiet and very reserved as well, not quite sure of any of us, but expressed a strong desire to join the CTE horticulture elective class. When joining the horticulture class in August, Mary became one of the original team members that would embark on a new project called our Campus Beautification Project, with Mrs. Lee, our horticulture teacher, leading the team. It thus began the needed healing process that our school so desperately needed at that time. So every Tuesday and Thursday, everyone could observe, even the district office family, they could observe the team removing old, dead, or very near dead plant material from all of our large clay pots that already existed on our campus. But adding new pots with new soil, flowers, fruit trees, and ornamental rocks with signage and a variety of drought-resistant plants kept the small team very busy. Students then placed the restored pots in the most aesthetically pleasing spots on our campus. Right outside of all of our classrooms, up and down the hallway, students could be seen and heard laughing, smiling, and working at accomplishing these amazing new plant arrangements. As the project progressed, it was obvious to all of us that Mary's confidence, her trust, and academic progress were blossoming right along the very plants or flowers she was working with. Saw her grades and attendance improve, and she was earning honor roll status these past 2 quarters. So obviously, and hopefully, we want her to continue that trend in this 3rd quarter and going forward in the 4th quarter. But Mary, no pressure, just, keep doing what you're doing. So lastly, though, Mary has proven her commitment to the beautification of Chaparral's physical environment, and as well as in the inclusive culture with others on campus through her considerate and empathetic behavior towards both her peers and all of us staff. Now, in full bloom, we see Mary expressing herself through her leading by example, and that other students are now joining in with her in their own blossoming journey. So it is with great pleasure to say congratulations to Mary for creating an inclusive culture and being an environmental steward at Chaparral High School. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much.
Yay. Mary, do you want to say a couple of words and maybe share with us where you would be donating your check to?
I was going to donate to the children's orphanage in Haiti. I'm pretty sure it's called the Changing Tides Orphanage. And it's a really cool organization. They help to send kids there to get a higher education and give them the opportunities that they need to do better and get a better life.
Thank you.
Wow. You did your research.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Mary, I'll bet there's some schools that have some pots that could really use your touch too.
Yeah.
I have a few.
Now we're going to move on to our Kindness and Friendship Awards. And Tiffany, are you going to be introducing?
I will just introduce Catherine White, who is our principal of Miramani, and she is going to share with us her awards for the night. And I have a picture I'll share.
Could we start with our student?
Yes.
Okay. We have her teacher here who has young children at home, and I know she'd appreciate being able to go first. That's Lindsay Brousseau. So the student that we chose, Lindsay and I have had frequent conversations about, and she's always sharing these sweet little things that she does. And so when it became our turn again, I was like, it was just hands down. I knew exactly who we needed to award this to. So I'm going to turn this over to Lindsay to talk about her sweet little first grader.
Yes, so I have Isabella in my class. And when Mrs. White asked us to think of a
Lindsay,
student.
can I stop you for a minute?
Yes.
Marisol is here. Marisol, can you translate for mom and dad? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I realized we need a translation.
Yes.
I will translate it after Miss Lindsay finish.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, we coordinated. She had me write it out so she could translate after.
Sorry.
That's okay. Anyway, it was like Mrs. White said, we didn't even think twice about who it could possibly be for a Kindness and Friendship Award. My class is filled with many students who show acts of kindness daily, but it's Isabella that just always shines through. She's kind, she's considerate, she's empathetic, and she's always willing to help everyone. She's really aware of other people's feelings and helps lift them up with compliments or by helping clean up if something has spilled. She's just aware and always willing to do what she can to make it easier for someone else. And on top of that, she's polite and has just tried her best this school year despite the challenges the year has brought. She comes to Zoom early. She wants to stay on longer. She has come to Zooms that she didn't even need to attend just because she wants to be there. And that I just think is an amazing quality. So she's just a special student. I'm so happy she's in our class this year. And Isabella, thank you for being you.
Okay. Señora Elizabeth, le voy a traducir lo que dijo la maestra, ¿ok? Dice, cuando Mrs. White, la directora, nos pidió que pensáramos en un estudiante para un premio por bondad y amistad, Isabela fue la primera estudiante que vino a la mente. Aunque mi salón de clase está lleno de muchos estudiantes que muestran actos de bondad a diario, Isabela brilla, es amable, considerada, empática y siempre está dispuesta a ayudar a los demás. Ella es consciente de los sentimientos de los demás y ayuda a animar a las personas con cumplidos y ayudándoles a limpiar algo que se ha derramado. Ella es educada y hace todo lo posible en la escuela a pesar de los desafíos que este año le ha traído. Hace Zoom temprano y siempre pide quedarse más tiempo para aprender más. Ella es una estudiante muy especial y estoy agradecida de que sea parte de nuestro salón de clase este año. Muchas felicidades, Isabela.
Gracias.
Right, and next, Mrs. White, we have our adults. So this award, the Kindness and Friendship Matters Award, rotates between schools, and it's sponsored by the Center for Spiritual Living. And every month, a school gets to pick a student and a staff member. And so, Mrs. White, would you like to introduce your staff members?
Sure. So, when I think about this year and I think about how hard this has been for both the adults and the children, and I think about the fact that our parents aren't coming on campus and they leave their little babies at the gates, right? Doing these health screenings. They don't come on, they don't really see what their day looks like. I am so grateful for having the people that greet these families and these children every morning. So the structure, the layout at our school is that we have a gate that's for our TKK students, which is Susan Duran's gate. She's one of the people we're honoring today. We also have Nicole Diaz, she greets our first graders. And then we have our second grade and third grade, which is Catherine Jacola, that is not here. And then we also have on our other gate, Marisol Ramirez. And every morning, and if you think back to the beginning of the school year, and this was all new and kids were coming on campus, and we had to hand sanitize, and you have to put a thermometer on their little foreheads. And then they wait for their magic number and whether or not their number is good or not. And you have to have the right personalities out there to not make that seem a little scary for our young children, especially the really little ones. And our greeters, I call them our happy greeters, because every morning they welcome the children. They tell them, hi, how you doing? They handle the whole hand sanitizing and thermometers as if it's just the way we do things, and they smile and they make it all really okay. And I know they make our parents feel comfortable too, that they're leaving their children with people who care. So I just want to applaud my 4 greeters again, that Susan Duran, Nicole Diaz, Marisol Ramirez, and Catherine Jacola. Thank you so much for making this so great for these kids and so comfortable.
Yay.
Thank you all. Our final recognitions this evening are for some volunteers in our community, and Tiffany is going to update us on that.
Actually, Mrs. White gets to do double duty tonight, and our volunteers, unlike our other wards, our volunteers are kind of a first come, first serve, and we put it out to the principals and whoever gets in first. So we had a tie. So we have a couple of 2 volunteers to talk about, 2 groups of volunteers to talk about tonight. So Mrs. White, would you like to talk about your first group?
Sure. So, we're trying to make this school year as normal as we possibly can during a year that is anything but normal. And we have had, we had Valentine's Day come along, and we were thinking, what are we going to do for Valentine's Day? The kids really, they love giving each other Valentines. And so Lily and Tally had put me in touch with some Rotarians at Halloween when we also did something semi-similar. And I said, what do you think? Do you think if we collected Valentines from the students, do you have Rotarians that would be interested in helping put them in all the bags for the children? And she said, absolutely. I think we have a team that would be willing to do that. And I have to say, Nicole and I were having a little bit of a heart attack. We were a little worried that if they didn't come through, we were in really, really big trouble, because when you looked at the number of Valentines, initially they came in kind of slow, and then it exploded. And between the items that the PTO had purchased to go in the bags and the Valentines the kids brought into school, and of course we'd sort of said, don't put names on it, because we thought that would be easier to sort them. A lot of the kids put names on them, and handwriting's not always easy to read. I am estimating we had somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 Valentines come in that had to be sorted. So we, as I said, we were having a little bit of a heart attack, thinking we were going to have to figure out how to do this ourselves. But we brought them all these Valentines came in. They sat in isolation for a certain amount of time, and then the volunteers came. And so my hat's off, and we are so appreciative of the following volunteers. I don't think I've seen Laura Denny on here tonight, but Laura Denny, retired Ojai Unified teacher, was one of them. Michelle Henson, I know I saw Michelle here tonight. Thank you, Michelle. Beverly Schubert, is Beverly here? I don't think she made it. And then Linda Taylor, and I'm not sure you guys, many of you know Linda, she's past Ojai Unified teacher and school board member. So they took probably 3 to 4 classes each and took it home, brought it back on a Monday. It was a very big job, and we are so thankful they did that. And on Friday, many of our classes had a virtual Valentine's Day party. So parents came and picked up all of their bags Wednesday and Thursday, and teachers told the kids, don't open them until Friday. That was torture, right? And so then they had a virtual Valentine's party where the kids were all opening their bags and sharing their little Valentines. And so it was really beautiful. So thank you to you Rotarians for making Valentine's Day happen for the school at or for the kids at Miramonte School.
You are welcome. Thank you. We had many laughs along the way with filling those bags. So keep us in mind in the future. It was fun. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, it is my pleasure to recognize Kevin Ruff for his work with our mock trial team. I used to actually oversee mock trial in one of my previous jobs, and it's hard to imagine from the outside how much work goes into mock trial. It is and Kevin can certainly speak to this, but it is a labor of love for sure. Many, many hours, many, many late nights. And I imagine extra hard on Zoom. And so we are very appreciative that Kevin Ruff led our team, our mock trial team, to be number 7 out of 22 teams in the county this year, which is amazing. And we are grateful for all of the time and countless hours and true deep expertise that you bring to coaching our team of students. And I know we have a small team in comparison to some of the other teams. And I'm so proud of our team and your work this year.
Well, thanks a lot. I can only clarify it was 7 out of 26 because a number of those schools have 2 teams.
Got it.
and those teams get into the finals even.
Yes, right.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the note, and I just want to mention the kids on the team. We have 3 who participated all 4 years, and those are Colby Fink, Trey Fontaine, and Sasha Frazier. And as a result of competing for 4 years, they also win a little award from VCOE called the Commitment to Excellence Award. And then Sophie Massey, who, because she was the star of the musical last year, was not all 4 years, but she was also a participant this year and participated 3 years. And then we got Sean Reed, who's a junior. We have a core group of sophomores, Emily Mitchie and Karen Murillo, and my daughter Ella. And then a freshman, Amelia Bagley, and that was it. That was our little band. So it was really neat to progress into that Elite 8 for the first time, and I think we're all excited. And I've been telling anybody who will listen, and I'll probably maybe bring some of the kids over to Matilaha at some point, or at least make arrangements to be on Zoom. It's such an interesting area because you really literally are arguing Fifth Amendment. You're learning about legal issues that you see on TV all the time. You're learning to be on your feet. Just a brief little anecdote. We, in one of our in the final 8, one of our trials was with a guy named Ron Bamier, who is a very well-known trial lawyer in town, and he's really intense, and he's like no holds barred. Most of our arguments, with the judges playing the mock trial judges, are done in a way that's kind of more, designed to be constructive, sort of, as Monty Python would say, cruel but fair. Whereas I would say Ron was more cruel but cruel. And Sean Reed, as this is going on, after he's done, I said, Sean, I think you got a couple of things wrong, but you were, awesome, man. You volleyed everything he threw at you. And Sean said, I found it exhilarating. And I thought, that's awesome, just to be grilled publicly and say, this is exhilarating. So anyway, thanks for the shout out, and I in turn shout out for this team and the fun mock trial experience we all have at Nordhoff.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you to everyone who joined us this evening. You are free to go on to the rest of your evening. Of course, you are welcome to stay with us, or you can go to YouTube and watch us live there. But otherwise, thank you again for joining us, and congratulations to all our honorees.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
We move on now to our public comments. I am going to.
Jane, every public comment is about reopening and return to school. So I don't know if you want to save them for that item, since they are all about that item.
I will do that.
Great.
So, oops. Then our next item is our Student Advisory Council. And we have Emily Michi with us this evening to kind of recap what our meeting was about on Sunday.
Hi. Yep. I think I'll start with the in-person classes. I have not been to in-person classes, but I will share what we discussed in our Sunday meeting. And I can say that everyone who has gone to in-person classes has said that it is going extremely well. Masks are being worn, protocols are being followed. There really wasn't a single concern. So that was really great. And then I think the last thing I have to say really is a small update in regards to the mental health training we were pursuing. Mrs. Murphy informed us that she is working with a county representative to get that training for us. So I know we're all really excited about that opportunity, and we hope to have more news on that soon.
Emily, I would tell you, I just met with Ms. Murphy and Ms. Cole-Michaels, and we're starting a new mental health pathway. And so we'll have some peer mediation and peer counseling in place next year. And we're really excited to have students join that inaugural program. I know we've had it quite some time ago, but that the new revisioning of our mental health support pathway, essentially. So.
I am excited to join that too.
There was also a great article about, I think it's even Channel Islands and Moore Park, maybe. I'm going to look it up and share it with you all, but there's schools that have created a sort of a robot that responds to kids, and it's really turned out to be a great mental health. You know, just the robot kind of, if you sign up for it, they'll say, hey, it's Happy Monday, and just kind of some really uplifting things that coming from this sort of app. So it might be kind of fun. You guys had talked about some Dear Abby kind of a thing. This might be a way to go. So we'll look into that.
I love chatbots. It's a chatbot. We can do
right. Yeah.
I just have to, since Emily happens to be here, and I was just talking about mock trial, I have to say, Emily is one of our sophomores, and she won 3rd place in the county for attorney and 1st place for bailiff. She ran a very orderly courtroom. So congrats for that, Emily.
Thank you.
Michael, you joined the Student Advisory Council on Sunday. Is there anything else that you felt?
No, although we did talk about some of the new certification programs. And I was really gratified to hear them say that they felt that they needed to be rigorous to be meaningful. I just like, that's music to my ears. And so this is the kind of kids we have, right? We should be proud.
And I think Emily said she might turn off her video for a while, but she will join us later for some of that discussion. So that'll be great. We'll move on to 4.3, our employee union president comments. First, we have Chuck Crawford from our CSEA. Chuck, good evening.
Good evening.
You look professorial this evening.
Oh boy, thank you. Yeah, I've shed some dirt before I got to the meeting. How's that? Classified employees, we have 170 of them here in Ojai Unified, and we are honoring women in history, and a majority of the people working here in the district are the women, which have done such great work in the teamwork, which we just got through seeing all these examples of people going above and beyond. And one of the things that's come up in conversation is the idea of performing related duties as assigned. And we all know this year that's been a really big highlight in job descriptions. But I just want to acknowledge the teamwork that has happened from bond managers, directors, principals, all the way to classified. As trying and as tiresome as this year has been for all the challenges, the idea of Ojai Unified has shined throughout the county through the union. We have conversations about how Ojai is doing it. It hasn't been easy, but it certainly has been collaborative. And just seeing that student presentation at those different levels already is just encouraging. And I am encouraged as I go throughout the district and see that same attitude reflected with classified employees. For example, attitude of gratitude posted in an office, or another office I saw, thankful. And that is that team building that's happening here in the district, that from our bond managers getting jobs started and finished, There's such a collaborative, and I just want to acknowledge that with the CSEA. And then for you to, as the board, to acknowledge people with the idea of the compensation for the COVID, where that process has been. We did have a death, as I mentioned in our last board meeting, that the regional rep in El Rio passed away. We have since assigned, we have Cindy Salazar out of Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara City College, I'm sorry. And she's our regional rep, which will be running a meeting soon so we can get that ratified amongst the members here in the school district. But we want to thank you with gratitude that you would even acknowledge the efforts that are taking place. Diane Wilkinson is our new labor rep, and we will be meeting this Friday with Dr. Morse and progressing on our communications. And so when they say a local education agency, we just showed a great example here of the community involvement, the student involvement, the parents, the staff. And I'm just excited to be a part of that. And I know our members are excited to be a part of that. And I just want to say thank you to all, and that we go forward as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. And now our Ojai Federation of Teachers President, Angie Janassi. Hi, Angie.
Hi, everyone. As always, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. There are several sections of the agenda I want to address in my time. First, I know that earlier you saw our tentative agreement with the district. The OFT negotiations team is satisfied with the agreement that has been negotiated and will be sending it out to the membership for ratification. I had hoped to send it out yesterday, but Google Forms thwarted me at every single turn. So I think I figured it out. It'll go out tomorrow. While it is my belief that our negotiations and subsequent agreement made a significant difference in how teachers are feeling in regards to their safety while being on campus, it is also important to recognize that the lowered case rates in the county and the fact that educators have been given the opportunity to be vaccinated has also played a significant role. I must thank Tiffany for making the Nordhoff Vaccine Center a reality. For those of us who loathe to drive down the hill, going to Nordhoff to get a vaccine was extremely helpful. In reading the agenda, I saw that you will be reviewing and taking action on the second interim financial report. I'm glad to see that it is earlier on the agenda. As the union president for OFT and a member of the public, I have been dismayed that the financial presentations by Dr. Morse have been pushed aside several times in the interest of holding board meetings to a reasonable time limit. I understand that this is a public document and that any one of us could ask to see these reports. And it is incumbent upon each of us to do our own research if we have concerns. However, these presentations help clarify a very difficult subject and keep transparency alive in our district. Finally, I see that you'll be taking action on the comprehensive safe school plan. In reading through that plan, I had some thoughts in relationship to the expectations that are set forth for teachers. Throughout the document, there's a reference to teachers being assigned additional duties on response teams. I want to make sure that if and when a teacher is assigned additional duties, that they feel comfortable with them. They are provided with the necessary training and are released from any liability that may come from following through with these duties. It's a very different world that we live in now, and these responsibilities in cases can mean either life or death. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Oh, I thought I heard something. We have actually moved our board member reports up to earlier in the agenda with hopes that board members will not be so tired at the end of the day, end of the meeting, that we don't have anything to say. And I'm just opening it up. I do have some things, but I thought I'd let others go first if there's anybody who would like to share something.
I want to share that I forgot to mention Phil Bagley, my assistant coach, who's a local lawyer. Thank you, Phil.
Any other things, Shelley? I think, did you attend one of the, was there a radio show, or was that our last meeting? You already talked about a dance thing that you had been to.
Oh, the dance program was last month, and I think I mentioned it at the last one, but yes, we do have this Saturday coming up. The Nordoff Drama Group is doing the Mask of the Red Death. Is that what it's called?
I think so.
I can't remember. The red, forgive me if I got it wrong, Mr. Hoy, but yes, Saturday night, I believe there's a radio program.
Great. So I actually wanted to talk about something that I don't know that we've certainly talked a lot about COVID this year, and I'm hopeful that our teachers have heard from families and from us how much we appreciate the hard work that they have done and how we understand what a tough year it has been. But I also wanted to take this time to thank our parents and our kids. I don't know if we've really said thank you to the students for working this hard and trying and I wanted to let you know that it's okay that sometimes it's too much and that you feel frustrated or you haven't felt successful, because what you have been doing has been amazing. It's just as amazing as what the adults have been doing. And you should recognize that for yourselves. You deserve, a hand for that. So I appreciate parents and students as well. And then I wanted to, again, like Angie did, just recognize the sort of sigh of relief for having some vaccinations in many of our staff. And I know that is just changing the way you can kind of just feel like you've been, I don't know who that mythical person was who was carrying the earth up, but it just feels a little bit lighter. It's still, it's like the light at the end of the tunnel. We're still in the tunnel, but there is just a bit of a shift. And I hope that shift will continue and that we will be able as a community to sort of reaffirm our friendships. I just worry that there has been some loss of friendships. Different people have different levels of concern, and it's very difficult when you disagree on something this impactful in our lives to maintain that friendship. But I think our valley is very special and our district is very special, and that I hope you will give each other sort of a little pass and kind of help each other get back to where we were and where we all want to be. We will now move on to our superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. And we have a few things to talk about tonight. First, we are very excited. We have our new video of the Matilaha Central Kitchen. So it was filmed by a student, a fourth-year video student in Mr. Hansen's class, Misha. And I think if I click here, you get to see the world premiere of our video. We've already seen a couple of edits we're going to make tomorrow, but for tonight, you get to see our brand new student-produced video. Hi, I'm Dr. Tiffany Morris, and I want to thank our community for supporting both Measure J and Measure K, which allowed us to have this beautiful new facility. We are going through the district and every single campus, upgrading our facilities. We are so grateful to be in this community and to have the support of our community behind, our teachers, our staff, all of our facilities workers, all of our nutrition services workers. And we love that our kids are going to get to come back to school and see this amazing, beautiful new facility. Thank you so much for helping to support the heart and future of the Ojai community.
Good afternoon. I'm Francis Gonzalez, the Director of Nutrition Services for Ojai Unified. Welcome to the new Matilaha Kitchen. Come with me. Let me show you around. Here we have our new dining hall, which will be fitted with plenty of seating, countertop tables, just nice area to hang out, especially when the weather's cool up there. Follow me. Over here is where the students will enter when they enter the kitchen to receive their meals, breakfast or lunch. This will be your fresh fruits and veggies for the day. Here, your drinks, and then our new serving light. Grab and go items, everything obviously prepackaged, scratch cooked. Back here, the heart of the kitchen, our prep areas. Here we have our beautiful sheeter. Thankful to have. This will allow us to make bulk cinnamon rolls, breads, all of our scratch baked breads that we make. Our cook line. We have a tilt skillet over here. This will allow us to make gallons of soup, chili, all of our sauces from scratch. Our new griddle, our prep sinks, state-of-the-art washroom. Here, walk-in refrigeration, full of fresh vegetables and fruits, of course. Our storeroom, allowing us to keep most of our products here centrally, and being able to allow us to order in bulk, save on money. Our walk-in freezer. And then down around, obviously, again, the dining hall where the students will be. Thank you for touring the kitchen with us.
Okay, hold on. All right. So thank you to our students for producing that amazing video as an internship project, and for Mr. Hanson for supervising, and for Linda Jordan for coordinating that and rescheduling, I think about a dozen times for a variety of different reasons, but for making that happen. We're really excited to share that with the community. I just want to share this picture with you. This is Designing for Joy. I was so excited to see this. This is at Miramani. You can see our new bollards that we put in that are designed for little pencils, or like little pencils in front. That is just some painted PVC pipe and some creativity and some handiwork, but I feel joyful just looking at it, and I love the idea of our families driving by and experiencing just a little bit of joy. Couple of great things going on for Women's History Month. We have this amazing bulletin board from Miners Oaks. We have a PTA president, Ashley, has done just a great job in our bulletin boards, and it's so fun to go to school and see all of these, the great work that she puts into this. We have our third Engage to Impact, a Place at the Table community workshop series coming up later this month on March 22nd. We have the Mayor of Ojai, Betsy Sticks, will be joining us, as well as Zenere de los Santos, who's a news reporter, and Suze Montgomery, who is from the Ventura County Area on Aging. Actually, she's from like 20 different places, but I only put one on the flyer, but she is a really amazing advocate for seniors, and particularly for senior women. So we're excited to talk about the past, present, and future of empowering women in our community. As we mentioned earlier, we have our vaccination site at Nordhoff, which has been really great. It's been great to see. I believe that all of our staff who wanted to be vaccinated have been able to do so, and to get appointments right here in Ojai without driving all over the county. Our other option was to have a bank of slots at the Ventura County Office of Education, but so much easier to just be able to do all of that at Nordhoff, and thanks to the whole team that has made that happen. We also started today, or yesterday actually, our free and ongoing staff COVID testing, which is at every site daily, different sites every day, but weekly there's testing. We also will be testing our student athletes beginning tomorrow, and then next week we'll be able to test students on campus on a voluntary basis if they would like to take a free on-site COVID test. So we're excited to have that going. That was a lot of work to put together, but as Jane mentioned, it helps us with that feeling of hopefulness and the feeling that when we are on campus, we know that our students and staff are safe. We implemented a new program in January, and I've talked a little bit about this, I believe, but we have switched from, we've switched our content filtering to a program called Goguardian. Goguardian has really 3 components, which is why we selected this program. First, it has internet filtering and something called the Beacon Alert System, which we had previously in our old program, but this one is a lot more sensitive. So if students are searching for something on a school device that they shouldn't be, or if they search for something that indicates that they might be in mental distress, potentially having suicidal ideation, we get an alert through the Beacon system and we reach out to the family to help, to see how we can help that student. So this is the first component of Goguardian. The second component is a Goguardian Parent App, which allows parents to actually see what their students are searching for on school devices. We rolled this out this week, and I already have a couple of emails from parents saying, thank you so much. This is something that we are struggling with. You know, we really want to be in partnership with our parents around what students are doing on their devices and give parents the opportunity to help monitor so that they can have conversations with students if that's something that they need to do or want to do. So our Goguardian Parent App is now live. And then in a couple of weeks, we will be rolling out the classroom management system for grades 6 through 9, I believe. And that will allow our teachers during class hours to see what students have up on their screen. So that has a couple of benefits. One, if students need help, the teachers can just see what students have on their screen. And the other thing is, you know, it allows us to be able to help ensure that students are on task during distance learning and otherwise. So for example, you know, if I'm working with a student or a class and I suspect maybe a student isn't paying full attention, I can pop over to their screen and say, hey, you know, I see that you are on a game right now. I'm going to need you to come back and join us in the class discussion. So just to give us a little bit more classroom management on our school issued devices. So we're excited to have that program.
Tiffany, I was going to say the other thing that Goguardian does for parents, correct me if I'm wrong, is you can shut off the internet on those devices after school hours. And I think that's a huge bonus for parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have some parent controls, or let's say that you want to shut off YouTube during, you know, after 10 p.m., for example, things like that. You have a lot more control over your student device. So as we move to one-to-one devices district-wide, we want to make sure that we are partnering with parents to have some control over those devices. Just other news that we're working on, we sent out a needs assessment for Spanish language preferred families this week. We just want to make sure that we are communicating with them, and if there's areas that we can improve in serving this population of our community, we want to make sure that we do that. So we have that survey that just went out. This is great news. Our special education plan was just approved by the California Department of Education today. That was a tremendous amount of work. We had parents on the advisory committee, we had staff and administrators on that advisory committee putting together this really robust plan, and we are so glad that it was approved. Our registration for the 21-22 school year is in progress. We have our elementary school tours are both in person and virtual, and we will be doing a Matilaha Incoming Eagles night on, I believe, March 18th, and we will have that whole packet going out to our incoming 6th graders, hopefully tomorrow or the next day. We are working on a classroom refresh demonstration room. So if you remember in Measure K, one of the items we talked about at a previous meeting was doing classroom refreshes across the district, which is new furniture, new cabinets, new audio enhancement equipment, things like that. And so we really want to make sure that our teachers are part of that work. So we are putting in a demonstration room at Nordoff, probably up to and including spring break. And then teachers will have an opportunity, teachers from around the district will have an opportunity to go in that classroom, try out the furniture, see if they like the whiteboard, see if they like the audio equipment, and they'll really be able to do a test run of everything before we begin to do that rollout throughout the district. Speaking of Measure K, our pool committee has the first meeting scheduled this month. We're excited to start working on the plans for the community pool. And I see we are missing an S here on progress, but our summer school programming is in progress. We are going to have our summer school July 6th through 30th. Our elementary is going to have SOAR. And so instead of having separate classes at elementary, we've decided instead to do one program for all elementary students, but they'll rotate through STEM work, outdoor education work, arts, and reading programs. I have great plans to do reading to therapy dogs. I'm super excited. I've been trying to work on that. If you know, I love dogs. And I think reading to therapy dogs is like the greatest thing ever. So I may go to elementary over the summer and read to therapy dogs. So we also know that for our families, it's really hard to have just a half-day program. Our partnership with Learn for Life really has a limit on the number of hours. And so at the elementary school, we will have extended childcare for a small fee. And we have absolutely tried to make that as inexpensive as possible. I think it'll be about $150 for the entire month. We really want to make sure that all of our programming is free, but the childcare is for families who can't pick up their students at noon and would need some extra childcare time. But if that helps them to be able to come all day, we're happy to do that. So that childcare is designed to be kind of cost neutral for us and just cover the costs. Middle and high school will have enrichment camps, credit recovery, and academic options. We're in the process of doing all of that right now and should have the catalog coming out soon. Then my favorite part of the superintendent's report are standing ovations. So at the district office, we have standing ovations for Carl Rimpa, our warehouse manager delivery driver, Laura Van Acker, Kevin Ruff, school board member, who frankly got, I think, 5. Maybe you were our #1 award-winning standing ovation person of the evening, and one for, or actually a couple for Family Fund. We have at Miramonte, Nicole Diaz, Tina Mahler, Catherine, Courtney, Heather Beamer, Natalie, Carmen, Michelle, and Angelica. At San Antonio, we have Katie Austin, Icy Colburn, and Robin Munson, who were all nominated. And I love to see staff nominating other staff. I love when parents do it. I especially love when students do it, but I love when our staff is showing appreciation for their peers and colleagues for the work that they're doing. At Topa Topa, we have a great group from Topa this month. We have Mark, who is our custodian there, Tracy, Oakland, Carolyn, Chris, Sarah, Romy, Nancy, Karen, Heather, Carolyn, Carmen, Tracy, Amy Bujold, and then again, a whole group of people, Tracy, Amy, Jennifer, Tracy, and Carolyn. So we have, I think that might be the entire Topa staff potentially there. And at Matilaha Middle School, we have Michelle Valenzuela, Steve Gard, Joel Topping, Cheyenne, Chantal, Carson, Stephanie, Susan, Greg and Martha Lapine, and Andrea Robinson and Alex Mejia. At Nordoff, we have Javier Ramirez, who is a math teacher at Nordoff this year, in addition to being the principal and the adult ed director. A few things going on for him. Robert Stratton and Scott Hanna, Wendy Churchill, and Stephen Davis, our custodian. Here's just a couple of selected comments from these. We have Javier Ramirez has gone the extra mile to help our Spanish-speaking families feel more included at Nordoff. He's been a key liaison between our two communities and never hesitates to be a translator and presenter, even though he has other responsibilities at Chaparral High School. It's clearly evident Javier genuinely cares about inclusion and providing the same opportunities for all of our OUSD families, regardless of any language differences. And we have one for the Family Fund from Abigail, a Nordoff student. Thank you so much. Thank you for the much needed school supplies. I was able to pick them up today at school. I appreciate the Family Fund for helping all students in need this year, especially with everything going on. This is very much needed and the materials will be very useful in my classes. Again, thank you for the work you've done to get these supplies to students in need. So thank you and congratulations to all of these standing ovation winners. They will get a certificate. We fill these out and deliver them to their school sites to be presented at staff meetings or other times, along with a highly coveted Ojai unified sticker for your water bottles or your laptops or whatever other cool thing you want to stick them on. So that is the end of my superintendent's report.
Thank you. And before we move on, I actually skipped over on our board members report. I forgot that Rebecca wanted to have a comment as well. So sorry about that, Rebecca.
It is okay. I could actually do it next time. I'm fine. I don't want to. It's okay. We can move forward.
Okay. I did, Tiffany, something you said actually mentioned the coming event, Place at the Table, and I forgot to mention the James Joyce event, Coffee with the Black Guy, that was held this past month in recognition of Black History Month, and that was really well attended. It was so wonderful to see so many people attended, and it was really helpful guidance and nice conversations. So thank you again for doing that. 5.1 is our school spotlight this year. This month, it's A Place to Grow, and Sherry Damas is here, the director of A Place to Grow. Thank you for waiting and welcome.
Yeah, I think Tiffany, you'll pull up the slideshow. Sherry was the primary producer of this beautiful slideshow that was put together to showcase A Place to Grow. And so she'll take the lead here, and I'm just here to support with any details I can help with. Go ahead, Sherry.
Let's see there. Okay. So first, I'd like to thank you for letting me have this opportunity to share about the school. I feel kind of like a very proud grandma that's about to show you all the pictures you don't want to see maybe, but it's a great place to work and we have a great team. So thank you for letting me share this. So a little bit about our program. We're actually a very unique program in that we, as far as I know, we are the only full inclusion program in Ventura County. Many other programs have part of general education students join the special education students for part of the day, but they're not completely with them all day long. So that gives us the uniqueness for our program. You want me to read it? I can read it. So our enrollment for our general education students, we start the enrollment in March. Families are required to pay a registration fee of $125 and a material fee and the same. We collect tuition and it's based on the amount of days that they attend and if they attend just for our morning program or our afternoon program. So the tuition ranges from $360 to $755 a month. Our special education students go through the assessment process to determine their eligibility and placement. That's based on their least restrictive environment. And we have to, all students have to be 3 years old in order to enroll in our program. Our curriculum, we use a play-based emergent curriculum because children at this age, that's how they learn. It's through play. So all of our activities are designed in that way. We don't do a lot of paper to pen or pencil to paper activities unless it's specific for, say, a fine motor activity or something like that. The emergent part comes where we do plan, we lesson plan, and then something will happen. The caterpillars will all of a sudden appear and we have to change everything because now they all want to learn about caterpillars. So it's an ever-changing curriculum based on their natural curiosity. And even children with and without disabilities are provided lessons that enhance their level of development. So as you can see in the one picture on the left is our B unit. And hopefully maybe one of these years we can talk Dr. Morse into coming and sharing about bees with us so we can all learn a little bit.
Yes, yes, please.
And the program is highly experiential in nature. So they are always investigating and exploring, and that's how they learn. One of the really cool things that I think is special about our program is we are participants in the Outdoor Classroom Project. And basically what that is anything that we can do inside, we can take outside and do it even bigger and better. For instance, block play now becomes play with tires or big wooden, sometimes limbs, not really huge limbs, but bigger things than we can have in the classroom. Painting, we'll do pendulum painting, or they can dip a ball into paint and throw it against a big piece of paper. We wouldn't do that in the classroom, we do that outside. So, and a little bit of rain never scares us. We love to go out in the rain. We actually got a donation of a bunch of clear umbrellas so that they can still explore while they're staying a little bit dry. But they don't like to stay dry. They want to stomp in the puddles. And the picture on the right is our ever popular mud kitchen. They absolutely love that area. And we love that we have a working hand pump. It's great for the kids. We have 2 patios outside of the classrooms, and we set up each patio for STEM activities and art activities. So there's lots of hands-on and learning going on and creativity on the patios. Again, it's incorporating the STEAM component as well as that outdoor classroom component. And our team. So you can see the 4 ladies in the middle, those are the teachers. We have a special education teacher and a general education teacher in each classroom. And then we have our occupational therapist and our speech and language pathologist. And then the rock stars of the classroom are all the instructional assistants. We participate in the Quality Counts Ventura County. And what that program is, it's a statewide program to help programs hire their quality. So we have participated in that in the past 4 years. Part of that participation is they will come out and do an actual observation of our program, and there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be filled out. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Tiffany. So we're assessed on child development and school readiness. So those are the children parts of it, teacher and teaching, and then the program and the environment. We receive a stipend every year for participating to be used for program improvement. And then the years that we are rated, we get an additional stipend. And then our big community outreach, which I love this program. This is like our summer school program, although it only goes for a week. You can go on, Tiffany. It's Ojai Safety Town, and what it is, it's a 1-week summer camp for children ages 4 to 6. The program, when it was designed, you can see the little houses in the bottom picture. That was actually a Eagle Scout project. So the Eagle Scout that built these, got the team together to build these houses, also had to get the funding for them. And so he went to businesses around town. They donated money to sponsor a building, and then the building was painted like the business. So when the children are learning in this mock town that we have, they see businesses that they recognize. So that's pretty cool. And that cute little boy on the right, that's my grandson.
I'm so happy that's still going strong, Sherry.
It is, yeah.
That's very cool. That was Kian Moore.
Yep, Keegan Moore, yep. Go ahead. So the daily themes include pedestrian, car, and bicycle safety. And you can see in the bigger picture there, the kids get a time to be on our town where we have stop signs, one-way signs, a working stoplight. They have little cars that they drive. And then we also have them walk around the town so that they learn how to be safe pedestrians. We have the fire department come out, which is always a hit. The police department comes out, and we have lifeguards from Lake Casitas Water Park come out and talk to the kids about water safety. We also do a bus ride. So they get to ride on the school bus, which is pretty cool. And then the counselors are actually youth from the community. So they earn community service hours. We make them go through an application process like they would for any job. So it's a learning opportunity for them. So they have to apply, they have to attend a training, and then they have to attend every day for the week and interact with the children and get them excited and teach them songs and play games with them. And by the end of the week, they have just as much fun as the kids do, the little ones do. And we get to open, yay, on March 22nd. We're finally opening back up to have kids on campus in a hybrid situation. So some kids will come on Monday and Tuesday, other kids will come on Thursday and Friday, and they all have the opportunity to Zoom if they don't want to come on campus.
Thank you, Sherry. I don't know if you or Tiffany, I always, are there also grants for students to attend who can't afford or is that just, I thought there was.
For the preschool program?
Yes.
We do not have any scholarship programs.
There used to be a First Five community-wide scholarship program.
Right.
That's what I was thinking of. Thank you.
Yeah. I have to say, Sherry, I'm thrilled seeing all of the outdoor activities. I had a colleague in my master's program who taught in an only outdoor education program in Sweden, where I would think you couldn't do that. And I thought, gosh, if they can do it in Sweden all year long, all outdoors, we certainly should be outdoors all the time too.
Right.
So
and
I
not
love
be afraid
that.
to go out in the rain. I mean, obviously, if it's dangerous and there's lightning, we don't go out. But there's so much exploring to do in the rain, you know, and things come out, worms come out and snails come out that you don't normally see. And they get very excited. I can go play in the rain. You know, yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
I would love to add, my son went to your school and it was such a great experience for our family. And I am so grateful that you guys are here. And I thank you.
Rebecca.
Thank you.
I'm excited for kids to see the mural, right? Like the mural ties in with all of that work, and we're getting some tables and we'll be able to sit out and add to that kind of outdoor exploration. And we're working on, if you've noticed, we've been putting a lot of resources into helping A Place to Grow to refresh it, knowing that it's a little bit of an older building, like all of our buildings here at the district office, Chaparral included. But we've put some new furniture in last year, right, over the summer, which is really nice. And we've been working on the outside. And Sherry, I just sent a little text to David Rogers about some things we might be able to do in the yard to help support that. So we're trying to make sure that the facilities are worthy of the great instructional program that we have going on there.
Well, and we're really lucky where we're at with that huge playground area that we really can do a lot of activities outdoors, and there's room for them to do it. So it's nice.
I also just want to say, when we do the readathon, please reach out. I loved coming and reading to the kids. So
next year.
Yes, when that
For
happens
sure.
again, sign me up.
We enjoy having the visitors come. So.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Jane, could we take a really quick break before the next item?
Sure. It is 6:56, so 7:05.
Sounds great to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're waiting another minute or so. Rebecca, I saw you there for a second. Are you back?
Yes, just getting set up.
That's fine. We are on to item 5.2, return to campus, looking forward to the 21-22 school year. We do have about 3 pages of comments. Tiffany, would you like me to read them before or after? Before. Okay, I didn't realize there was so many. I would have shared them, but I don't think this has been shared with anybody else. Do you want to take turns with me, Tiffany? Do you have it in front of you?
I think Kathy sent it to us.
Oh, to everyone? Okay.
I have it in my email.
Okay, great. Great, then we will take turns. We'll read the first one. We'll go in the same order we always do. Kevin and Michael and Rebecca and then Shelley. Monica Hayes, concern about Matilaha. I am a parent of 3 students in Ojai Unified School District. I have a child in elementary school, Matilaha and Nordoff. Being in education myself, getting a preschool up and running in June to accommodate all guidelines was not easy, but it was doable. I was very impressed with the elementary level and the push and drive to get students back to some normalcy and in the classroom. The concern I have is the lack of progress on getting Matilaha and Nordoff students on campus. What is currently offered is not enough. My high schooler will be starting back during her assigned time. My middle schooler is angry and frankly, I do not blame her. I received the parent square messages in regards to the minimal turn in of PE logs. Make PE outside and offered class during the week. They just need something. I have seen my youngest enter back into school. How do I explain to my older children that they don't get to go back as much as their sister? Not sure if you can even count 1 hour every 3 weeks as going back. These students need social interactions just as much as the younger students.
This is from Casey Stevens. Hello, board and parents. This week, I, as well as many other parents, were informed that some classes would be going back to school 4 days a week. My daughter's 3rd grade class is one of the classes staying with hybrid, but the other 3rd grade class will be going 4 days a week. I believe all kids should be given the same equal opportunity. This is not equal. There is no way this will be fair or equal until all children have the opportunity to go to school with their teacher in their classroom 4 days a week. How are the kids on campus not having a massive advantage going into the next grade level? Being offered kids clubs is not the same, not even close. I think my child's school and the district as a whole moved far too quickly on this. I respect my child's teacher, but knowing that she wasn't ready to have a larger class, then why bother pushing the idea of 4 days knowing it was not going to work? I want to make it very clear that I do not want the school to cancel their plans of having kids return to campus 4 days a week. I'm very aware that there are very excited kids and kids that really need the support of on-campus help. But like I said before, every child should be given equal opportunity, mine included. So what's the next step? There needs to be a better solution. Me telling my daughter, sorry, honey, there is just a couple of extra kids in your class. Oh, well. Ojai needs to do what is best for these kids. Our numbers are low. My daughter's school only had 1 case, and it was an adult. Let's get these children back on campus, all of them. I have serious concerns for the current TKK first. Get these kids off Zoom and in class. I'm already 1 foot out the door. Both my girls are currently on a wait list for a new school outside the district, and I know I'm not the only OUSD parent.
Matt Dwyer says, we are parents of a child in one of the 3 classes that are not going back to 4 days a week in-person instruction at Miramonte. While we believe the educators are doing their best to accommodate in-person learning, this discrepancy not only provides a distinct advantage to those children returning for 4 days, but also furthers the detrimental mental and emotional health impacts of those who are not in the classroom. This situation is not simply a fairness issue, it's a serious flaw in the planning and decision-making at the board and school level. What actions will be taken to guarantee the outcome of all students returning in the fall?
Am I next? Yeah. I'm going to take that as a yes. You were muted, so I didn't hear you. Ashley Shirk writes,
Yes. Sorry.
I'm writing as a concerned parent in regards to how our children's emotional career is starting off. As a parent of a kindergartner, I strongly disagree with her experience thus far. Children should be on campus learning. I will be exploring other options for next school year until we can guarantee kids can be on campus 5 days a week. I know other parents feel the same as me. Since teachers will be vaccinated by next year, I see no problem being able to accommodate this. I want to feel confident sending our daughter to school where the teachers want to be on campus teaching. Right now, our experience has not been that. My daughter and I have been told it's our responsibility to keep her classmates and teachers safe. Or I should be thankful my daughter is privileged, speaks English, and doesn't come from a low economical upbringing. My husband works very hard to provide a good life for our family, and I will not be shamed for him doing so. I have no problem going to a different route for our daughter's education, one where she can attend 5 days a week, mask-free, and with teachers who aren't afraid of a virus that has a very high success rate. Thank you for taking the time to read my concerns.
Kathleen Roney writes, I just wanted to put my comment that I feel the school district should make every effort and accommodation to have all school children back on campus full-time next year, even if it means continuing to wear masks. Our students are becoming weaker and sicker academically, emotionally, and physically by staying home. Whatever it takes to open a full campus is what needs to occur. I know I am not the only person that feels this way. Please consider all of the social, emotional, and familial instability, financial stress, and academic burdens on top of the current health issues that are impacted by this decision. Sincerely, Kathleen Roney.
Robin Garrettson. I look forward to hearing the presentation on what school reopening may look like for the 21-22 school year. I just want to say that I strongly feel that schools need to reopen fully by fall. I understand there will most likely be precautions required still, masks, distancing, temperature checks, etc. But I believe students need to be back in the classroom full time. If distance learning is still offered, I would like to see separate teachers handle that so that classroom teachers can focus their whole day on educating their kids in person. I also would like to see that this decision made before summer so that parents can make alternative plans if the school's reopening plan is not satisfactory to them. Thank you.
Elisa Duclos. First, I'd like to say I'm thankful for the hard work of our OUSD teachers and staff. I know the events of this last year have turned your lives upside down in many ways, and you are appreciated. That being said, with regard to the remainder of the current school year, I feel it's imperative we find a solution to get our secondary school students back more than 1 hour once a week, in the case of middle school, every other week. The tide is turning, and we can't ignore the mental health of our children who've been out of a classroom now for over a year. Safety measures and millions of dollars have been spent by our school district to protect students, faculty, and administration, and teachers now have the ability to be vaccinated. Our elementary schools have been making it work for months. It's time to get our secondary students back to class. With regard to the fall and our 2021-2022 schedule, there is mounting evidence from many schools across the nation that returning to the classroom can be done successfully and safely. I know the 6 feet social distance requirement has been a huge hurdle in getting the kids back in the classroom. However, numerous epidemiologists and infectious disease doctors have noted that the CDC's 6-foot guidance in tethering school openings to community transmission does not reflect the science. A study published in January by the CDC showed minimal in-school spread, with students generally not maintaining 6 feet distance. The World Health Organization marks 3 feet for distancing in its school guidance, and even the American Academy of Pediatrics cautions against strict adherence to 6 feet guidelines if it means students are forced to learn remotely. Recently, the California Department of Public Health has allowed for 4 feet social distance in a classroom, and with continued masks, temperature checks, hand washing, and sanitizing measures, there should be no reason not to send the students back to school 5 days a week in the fall. Additionally, by next August, we will be in an even better position with regard to rates of infection, with the majority of our elderly, immune compromised, and most susceptible population vaccinated. When the pandemic first began, we listened to the CDC and Dr. Fauci's recommendations and the science and logic behind their decisions. They are now recommending that students go back to school, and millions of dollars are being spent. For what? Empty classrooms? We can't keep moving the goalpost at the expense of our children. Please bring the students back to school full-time for the 2021-2022 school year.
This is a comment from Mandy. I'm a parent of 2 kids that attend Miramonte Elementary. They are in one of the few classrooms not able to go back to 4 days a week due to class size. This is a major disappointment to my children and myself, as they have to see the other 3rd grade classroom going back and not them. They deserve the same education as the other classroom, and I feel like more options are available than just ABC Club that are being shot down by administrators. If it is teacher preference, then another teacher should be brought in that is comfortable with the 18 kids. Public school is about equal opportunity for everyone, and I don't feel like this is at all equal opportunity. This is something that needs to be looked at more thoroughly for next year's plans. We need to get all of our kids on campus 5 days a week next year, no matter what needs to happen. They all deserve the same education, which is not happening now for some students.
Thank you. Tiffany? You're muted at the moment.
All right, I'm going to share my screen and wait. Sorry. I'm going to try sharing my screen again. This time. Okay. There we go. So the item is titled Return to Campus, and the title reflects kind of next year, but I do want to go through what's happening this year. But first I want to start with some amazing pictures of our kids who are now in their 3rd week of being back on campus. And these are from Nordhoff, and you can see some of the things that our students are being able to do on campus. You can see mask adherence, and this is at Matilaha. Some of the ways we've been able to accommodate students both in the classroom and out of the classroom through outdoor learning spaces. So I just want to talk about where we are right now, and this is really important to know. High schools cannot open in a hybrid model right now while the county remains in the purple tier. So to those parents who want us to bring kids back more frequently right now, we literally cannot do that legally under the requirements with public health right now in the purple tier. So I know that Moore Park High School is open. They were open way back in March. They were the only one to be open at that time. And Conejo just opened.
Right, I think you meant back in November. You said back.
Right. Sorry, back in October, November, whenever they opened. I think October 19th. Conejo just opened this week, but they also have, it's a little bit complicated, but the option that they use to open is not available to us. So for the most part, high schools, well, not for the most part, high schools cannot open in the purple tier unless they had some other accommodation. We have been open for 3 weeks at both middle and high school because we are opening under the small cohort guidance, but that is limited in what we can do. So until the county moves to the red tier, we can't essentially come back in a hybrid model with multiple cohorts and so forth. The waiver for opening in the purple tier did not apply to high school. So I still get questions about a waiver, and the waiver was available to elementary schools. All districts are planning to bring back their high school students at this time, but that is dependent on our county moving to the red tier. We did not meet the red tier this week. Hopefully next week. I was just looking at our countywide number. For case rates, the case rates need to be at 7 and we're at 9.1. So although we anticipate moving to the red tier, we are not there yet. But in anticipation for that, we have submitted our COVID safety plans for hybrid program to both the state and the county. They have 7 days to respond and we did not get a response, so we assume that those are approved. We are negotiating our hybrid program and schedule with the Ojai Federation of Teachers. As you heard from Ms. Janesi, we have a tentative agreement to return in a hybrid program. Our tentative agreement is to move, if Ventura County is in the red tier by March 29th, then we will move to a hybrid schedule at Matilija and Nordhoff after spring break, which has kind of been our plan all along, that we would be in the red tier and then we would be able to, after spring break, which is also the 4th quarter, to have a new schedule. We talked about it and we really are reticent to have a massive schedule change in the middle of 3rd quarter, just because it can be a little bit disruptive. And for some of our classes, they really need every minute that they have available. And so we had agreed to wait until after spring break to give both students and teachers a time to make that adjustment. And the timing will work out because we believe that's when we'll kind of be in the red tier, hopefully by then. So in terms of our current work, this is great news. As Angie mentioned and Jane mentioned earlier in the meeting, there is some positivity at this point. All of our education staff is eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. I believe most of them have received it. We are doing our weekly COVID testing on site. And I would say, we are one of the few districts that's doing on site, on school site, weekly testing. Some school districts are doing testing of staff, but it's either every other week or it's not on site, it's through the county program. So we're excited that we have on site weekly staff testing, student athlete testing, and then voluntary student COVID testing begins next week. Again, I don't know if any other districts at this point are doing voluntary student testing. So we're excited for that. There's a lot of paperwork pieces that we are getting together, and after tonight's board meeting, we'll be rolling those out to parents this week. We also, as you heard from some of the public comments, we are working on collapsing cohorts for more time on campus. If it's possible to do so and to still meet the social distancing requirements, then we're doing that. If we can't meet the social distancing requirements, then we can't collapse the cohort. So for example, if we would have 20 or 18 students in a class, we just can't meet the 4 to 6 feet requirement. But we decided as an administrative team that if we had a couple of classes that weren't able to meet those requirements, we didn't want to hold back all students from being able to come back on campus more frequently. But we are working to mitigate that for those other classes, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. At the secondary level, we still have to operate under the small cohort guidance, and so we can't have more than 14 students in a classroom, no matter what. So it's the social distancing at elementary, and it's the small cohort 14 number at secondary. So collapsing cohorts basically looks like this. So let's say that we have a class of 24 students. That would be 2 cohorts of 12. So we divided the cohorts into A and B. So let's say that about 35% of our students are remaining on distance learning right now, which is about our number. It's different in different classes. That would leave us with 8 students in the A cohort and 8 students in the B cohort. So right now they come on Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. In the collapsed cohort model, we take all 16 students, as long as we can fit them in the classroom, and with the 4 feet of social distancing, and they get to come 4 days a week. The CDC guidelines have been 4 to 6. Our county public health has been very strict about maintaining that 6-foot distance. That only recently changed in the last week or 2 that we could move to 4 feet. So that's what allowed us to start this cohort collapsing. For classes where we can't do that, so let's say we either have fewer students on distance learning, or we have larger class sizes, or we have more students in either of those A or B cohorts, what we're doing is we do have ABC Club as an option. So right now, ABC Club is only available through 1st grade. But if we collapse cohorts, we have, so if we're at this model down here and we have some students coming 4 days a week, we open up spots in our ABC club. And so with those open spots, we're able to invite all students to come 2 days a week with their teacher and then 2 days a week in ABC club. We're also working on trying to find substitute teachers who could maybe take over those B cohorts if possible. So it's not about the teachers, it's about the space required. And even if we're outside, we still have some limitations in terms of weather and things like that. And we don't always have an extra place to put those classes. So we have the ABC club option. And then if that, we're working on providing substitutes. So you might see your teacher Monday, Wednesday, and then a substitute teacher on your Tuesday, Thursday route. But most of our
have classroom space for that, meaning that puts a substitute in an empty classroom. We have empty classrooms.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're working on figuring out all of those pieces. So ABC Club is a temporary solution, but we're looking forward to bringing all classes back as much as possible. We're doing this. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, so this is for the purple tier, right? This isn't like if we move to the red. Okay.
The social distancing requirement stays the same in red though. It's still that 4 feet. So even when we're in red, it's the social distancing requirement that is causing almost all of our scheduling issues right now across the board. At the middle and high school, if we have classes that, same thing, if we have classes that are smaller, so say for example, we have video productions and we only had 10 kids that wanted to come back, our model at the high school is that there's a Tuesday cohort, a Wednesday cohort, and a Thursday cohort. Although I think we actually dropped most of the Wednesdays because of numbers. So Tuesday, Thursday, you can come on both days. So we're trying to allow as many students as possible to be on campus. So it's not equal. Although throughout this, we haven't had an equal model. Our special education students came back first. At the high school, even from the first week, if we have smaller classes, those kids come back more frequently. So our goal overall is to get as many kids on campus as frequently as we can while staying within the public health guidelines. And so some classes may be able to do that a little bit quicker than other classes, but our goal is to get everyone there as soon as we possibly can. And if not, to mitigate that with other learning opportunities. I think at Matilaha, we started with, if we had a cohort, our third period, if there was an A cohort 1 week and a B cohort the next week, we're working on bringing all of those kids back. I think our numbers, now that we've gone through a full cycle, I think our numbers will be such that we can actually have kids come every week. So instead of coming every other week, they'll come every week. And then when we move to the our new hybrid model, after spring break, we'll be able to bring back students more frequently for all of their classes. The good news is we also are able to bring back high school athletics. Let's see, I have a little error here, but there is—
Before you go on, Tiffany, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I understand that, you know, that some ELA students have been coming back and special ed students have been coming back, and there has not been the same equality across the board. But it does seem that this is highly irregular in terms of equal, right? You know, let's say you have 2 4th grade classrooms, that one would come 4 days a week and one would come 2 days a week. I think it really need, how many of those classes are happening, let's say at a school at Miners Oaks, Miramani? What are our other spaces? Can we take over the cafeteria? Can we take over? I just think it has to be outside. And you know what, if it's a rainy day, then you go to the AB schedule. So you know, sort of like we're coming into April, how many rainy days are we going to have? I'd rather see us really work to have all classes be the same. I can see if fourth grade doesn't come back, but not one fourth grade and not the other. Like, I think equality really has to be on a campus, has to be the same. I know you guys can look at that and we'll look at that, but I have the same concerns as the parents that just doesn't seem right. And I like the substitute teacher model. I think that works for me. Even if one class is not getting a substitute, they're still getting a credentialed teacher. I think the ABC Club is not the same. So as we move through the next 2 weeks working on that and waiting for the red tier, I really would like to have you all work on that.
And we are working on it. It's our goal. We didn't want to, though, wait for everyone if we had very small cohorts, right? So if we had 3 kids in a day, for example, right? So we are absolutely trying to bring back everyone. It's just some classes are going to be a little bit faster than other classes, but we're working on substitutes and spaces and all of those things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're muted, Kevin.
I agree with your point, Jane. I mean, I think it is just very hard to accept, and you see that, you know, from a parent's perspective, how do you explain to a kid why just by chance you just basically can't have the same experience as other kids, which, you know, hopefully is a way we can move forward to more rather than less, obviously, is a hope.
Can I ask another question? And with the cohort stability, does that, with the new law, is that still a requirement in the same way? I know the social distancing is, but
well, I think you mean the January. I think you mean this guidance, right?
No, I'm referring to the law that was the AB.
Oh, the AB 86, which I think still follows the California for All. We are operating under the small cohort guidance, which is a completely separate and has not been changed by any of the new AB 86 stuff yet.
But just for the publics, like, I'm trying to emphasize that when we change to the red tier, it becomes much less restrictive, which allows us to open probably at greater equality across the district, I would imagine. Right. But I'm sure we can explore more options, which is, you know, relatively quickly that should be happening.
Yeah, I think they're predicting potentially the first day we could move to the red tier would be March 17th. We went down in terms of our case rates countywide. We went from 10.1 to 9 point something. So we only went down 1. We have to get to 7. But the expectation is that we will continue to get there and hopefully in the next few weeks.
Tiffany, is there also, I had read something, and now this is related to LA Unified, so I don't know if it's county by county or statewide, but if once the state reaches 2 million vaccinated people, that number, instead of being under 8, would be under 10?
I've heard that. I have not seen that I don't know that for sure.
Okay, because I think they're talking about hopefully sometime again next week is when we might hit that $2 million mark. So there are a couple of things kind of coming that are hopeful.
I think also the state is changing the requirements for the tiers as well. So that is a little bit in our favor, I think, as far as restrictions go.
But I want to be clear, our at elementary, it's the 4 feet social distancing, which is not going to change when we move to red tier. At secondary, when we're in the red tier, we can reopen, but we have agreed to and been planning all along and now have a tentative agreement with OFT that we will not return in a hybrid schedule until after spring break, which is at the beginning of April. So even if we move to the red tier, we're not going to magically flip a switch and have a massively different program. We have a planned rollout of moving from our small cohort model to our hybrid model in a planned time frame, which will happen after spring break.
Which I think makes sense, because you also, at that point, a lot of our staff will have the second vaccination. It's probably, something like 4 days or something we end up talking about gaining or losing.
Right. High school athletics has had some positive changes as well. Recently, we are looking at bringing back all the sports that you see there at the bottom, which kind of simultaneously or pretty close to that, which is a lot of work. I would like to thank Renee McCowmock at the high school and Dave Munson for helping to really do all of the back end logistics, which are pretty significant. And our athletic rules keep changing. Every time we think we have something in place, then it changes again. I would actually say one of the things that happened is we agreed to have the vaccine clinic because at the time, volleyball and wrestling couldn't happen until we were in the orange tier. And at that time we were in purple and we still have to get through red to get to orange. And so we said, okay, in 6 weeks, we're not going to go from purple to orange. It'd be highly unlikely. So we committed to the vaccine clinic. And then last Thursday, they changed the requirements and now basketball can open or can play and compete in the red. But we have already committed to the vaccine clinic. And I would not propose saying to our community that they can't get their second vaccine in Ojai because we're going to restart sports in the Nordhoff gym. So we found an alternative. It's not ideal, but we are able to use the Matilaha gym for those indoor sports until such time as the vaccine clinic is over and our community is safely vaccinated, which we think is in the greater interest of everyone in the community. So we are having, in fact, a blue and gold scrimmage for football this weekend. There's a limit on spectators to only household members for both practice and competition. So we're working on what that looks like, how many people we can have observing, how to do social distancing, things like that. For those who won't be able to attend the athletic events in person, we are working on setting up live streaming so that we can host that for families and they can watch that. Athletes are required to test weekly for competitions right now in the purple tier, and then there's a whole bunch of complicated rules around that, but we have free weekly testing on site for our athletes starting tomorrow.
Tiffany, I think as part of that conversation about the vaccination clinic at Nordhoff, it's important to let the public know why we're not moving the vaccination clinic.
Right. So one, it was a tremendous amount of setup to put that at Nordhoff. Two, the proximity to the high school is really important because the vaccines have to be frozen and they have to be kept at a certain temperature. And I think the Moderna one, I can't remember, one of them has to be very, very low sub temperature. And so we can't be driving it all over the town to get to a site. There
Right.
Also,
I think you mean the proximity to the hospital, not to the high school.
I meant hospital, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought I said hospital, but the high school's proximity to the hospital. So there really isn't another alternative for it, for where that clinic could be at this point. We are committed through kind of mid-April to that location.
Thank you. I just thought that was important for people to understand why we were making the decisions to move the sporting events.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point, we really couldn't move the clinic. Any other questions on sports?
Sorry, I have one quick one. What is the testing requirement? Is it?
So there's a lot of different pieces of that, but I believe that while we are in the purple tier, football has to test weekly, and they have to provide the test to the opposing team within 24 hours of the competition. And then some of our high contact sports, so all the sports are ranked in a tiered system. So our high contact sports like volleyball, swimming, and wrestling, I believe, all have to have regular testing. And so we have just, because we have testing set up, which was really the big hurdle, we will be doing regular weekly testing of athletes just to ensure that everyone is able to play safely. But it really depends on the sport and the tier, and it just changed recently, so I think I have that right, but can double check. All right, so looking forward, in elementary school, we are excited that we are proposing to use our COVID funding to hire additional elementary teachers, and you'll hear more about COVID funding in our first interim or a second interim report a little bit later this evening. By doing that, we'll be able to staff our classes at a maximum of 24-1, which allows us to bring all elementary students on campus 5 days a week for full days and still meet the social distancing requirement of 4 feet. So that's the work that we need to do. We'll be hiring some additional teachers. Those will be temporary teachers that will be with us next year while we have that 4-foot social distancing. I, of course, don't have a crystal ball, but I anticipate that social distancing requirement is not going to change until students get vaccines, is just in general what we're hearing. The student vaccines are not available yet. We hear maybe over the summer, but then we'll go through that same process of doing vaccinations that we're doing right now, which will take likely some time to be able to get those out to students. So we're anticipating that social distancing requirement will just be in place when we come back to school next year. And so we are planning for models that allow us to accommodate that. We also want to maintain a homeschool option for families who'd like an alternative to in-person. So for our families that either aren't comfortable coming back or don't want to wear masks, if that's still a requirement or whatever the reason might be, we want to maintain that homeschool option that we have this year at the elementary site. But we likely will not continue with a full distance learning option with live Zoom like we have right now.
And Tiffany, one of the things you were saying earlier about the classroom model being set up at Nordoff with the new furniture, that will also assist in, right? Because right now there's a lot of desks at the elementary level that are double desks.
Right.
Am I right about that? Okay.
Right. So the great news is that Measure K, we had already had a classroom refresh on the budget. And so we are going to accelerate that classroom refresh at the elementary school. We won't do the full classroom refresh, but we will buy the new furniture, which will allow us to get rid of the double desks and to provide more social distancing. Because obviously if you have 2 kids sitting right next to each other in a double desk, that doesn't provide the required social distancing. Which is, by the way, one of our other issues right now in terms of the elementary school and coming back right to more cohorts. It's just the double desks and having the physical space that we need in terms of furniture and stuff. So looking at middle and high school, it's a little bit more complicated there for all the reasons that we've been talking about, I feel like, for almost a year now, just a few days shy of a year. But middle and high school is just a little bit harder because our classes are bigger and our classrooms are smaller. But we are in the process of developing our schedules for next year. Again, the main factor that is difficult for us is that 4-foot requirement, and we are planning for that to not be lifted. If it is, that's great, but we have to be able to be prepared for that to not be lifted. So our goal is to have all students on campus 4 to 5 days a week. Even if there are social distancing requirements. but that requires us to build several possible schedules. One of the things, the reason it's 4 or 5, if we have to have a rotating schedule, either a rotating block schedule or AB possibilities, it's hard when kids get off track, right? So if we have 5 days, but an AB model is only 4 days. And so it might be that one day is distance learning with, all classes, or just all classes in one day, like a Monday or a Friday, either in person or in distance learning. And then the other days are rotating, potentially AB, where all kids get to come. So we have lots of models we're working on. The process for developing schedules at the middle and high school is dictated by our contract with our Ojai Federation of Teachers. And we have a particular article that dictates how those schedules are developed. And so we don't, as administrators, just make the schedule. There's a whole collaborative decision-making process that's outlined in our contract that we have to go through. And we make these decisions about schedules by consensus at those sites. And so that's the process that we're working through right now. We did do a survey of students just to get their feedback. So the survey doesn't decide what schedule we have next year, but we wanted to have their feedback that we could share with the teachers as we begin that collaborative decision-making process about schedules, to say, how did these schedules work for students, so that we can make sure that our schedules we pick are based on student voices are included in that. So we anticipate that the schedules that we are able to develop at Matilah and Nordhoff will be available during the typical master schedule timeline, which is May or June. So that's when we would normally be talking about the classes and the schedule. It's just the time frame for us to be able to get through all of the enrollment, to look at classes, to do that collaborative master schedule, or the collaborative schedule development, and then to put that master schedule together. We do want to next year continue with Matilah and Nordhoff online for families that prefer distance learning. So we want to make sure that we have that option at all of our sites for families who aren't comfortable coming back in a variety of different ways.
So Tiffany, in order to have students back on, I just want to make sure I'm understanding, have middle school and high school students back on campus 4 to 5 days a week, would we also be looking at hiring teachers at the secondary level in order to increase capacity?
Yeah, that's one option that we're looking at.
Okay.
We're still sorting through all of those details. And I would say, I don't believe that there is a district in the county that has put out their schedule for next year yet. We're all still working on what we're going to do when we go to the red tier, and nobody is put out their schedule for next year. So
I'm making the assumption, and I realize I've never heard anyone say this, that when you talk about work, like if you were to ask me, who is not an administrator, who's not a teacher, who's not, I have no understanding of how that works. I would be thinking, well, we're going to make a schedule based on everyone, we can have full capacity student, sort of, maybe we're masked, but we don't have to be distanced in the classroom. We can have all students on campus every day for a full day. And then we're making a schedule for, some kind of an AB, whether it's morning, afternoon, or every other day or something, blah, blah, blah. And then we're making another. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you looking at just, this is the schedule we're making and are going to stick to?
Right now we're in the development phase, so we are working on a few different schedule options.
Okay.
But at some point we have to staff and schedule kids into a particular schedule. And it's difficult when we put kids into a schedule, it's difficult to change that schedule, particularly once we've staffed. So part of the reason we have the block schedule that we have right now with 6 periods, which isn't how you would ideally do a master schedule for a block schedule, was because in March last year, when we were beginning the process of staffing, we had allocated our staff based on a particular, on a regular schedule. And then we tried to smush that schedule to be a block schedule. And we ended up with some things that we didn't necessarily like. And so same thing at Matilaha. So we're trying to, right now we have room to develop different options, but at some point we have to actually schedule kids into a master schedule. And then that kind of locks us into whatever it is we're going to do for the most part.
Can I ask a block schedule? To me, it says, you take 3 classes on Monday and 3 classes on Tuesday, or a block schedule like we did this year, fall and spring. There's different.
There's lots of different options, and we're looking at all of those different options.
I'm going to voice my personal opinion that I hate this 3 classes in the fall and 3 classes in the spring. I know you're not surveying the board, but.
And I'll just chime in then, Jane, to say that it has been such a relief for kids that I have talked to not be juggling 6 classes at once. So it hits everybody differently. There's people who love it and there's people who hate it.
That's assuming, though, of our full distance learning. I'm assuming that we're going to be back in a much closer to a normal day.
Right.
Yeah, I'll just add AP is really hard with that block schedule.
Yeah, we've heard, sorry, Rebecca, go ahead.
I would just add that in my district that I work in, we did not do any schedule modifications and kept the regular schedule. And we have a tremendously higher DNF rate than Nordoff does at this moment, because it is really difficult, especially with hybrid schedules, to have a 6 or 7 period day. So I am jealous of the block schedule and I would love to enact it there.
I mean, if I can just get a quick one in, along those lines, I know a lot of people in our district right now are looking at other districts, and Rebecca, you bring up Ventura. Can we speak a little to what the particular challenges are in Ojai or the things that seem to be going on in other districts that maybe aren't? Like, for example, it looks like Ventura is planning to go back to something approaching like 4 days a week in their high school with multiple classes very soon. No?
No, I feel like we're getting very far off of agendized items. I would say that we're doing a A/B split. 2 days a week A would go back, 3 days a week B would go back, and then they would flip the reverse week. So they would be back either 2 or 3 days a week after spring break, assuming we're in the red tier.
So that's an assumption is the red tier. So this is all just planning on a future that's out of the purple.
In the elementary, it's planning full-time 5 days a week.
Oxnard Union is going to come back, I believe, 2 days a week in the red tier. Conejo is back 4 days, but they're half days at secondary. I mean, we're in line with our planning for fourth quarter is in line with where everyone else will be. The difference is we opened 3 weeks ago for kids to start coming to campus. So we will be open have high school students on campus a full 5 weeks before anyone else does in the red tier. So I know there's a lot of feelings like it's not enough, but I would say we are absolutely pushing the envelope and have been to have our kids on campus in a small cohort model while everyone else is waiting for the red tier. So I feel like it's frankly a little bit unfair to be saying everyone else is coming back in this with more students. We will do that, and we have planned all along to do that in the fourth quarter, but to come back in this small cohort model through third quarter, but to start earlier than everyone else has. That's the trade-off, right? But we will get what everyone else is getting in the scheduled time.
And these are important points for us to make right now. I think people need to hear that, because I think there's some misperception sometimes about what else, what's going on across the street.
And have we heard, I mean, forgive me if I missed it, or maybe we're not there yet in the planning, but I know in the fourth quarter, what you talked about for elementary, and I know you said that your negotiation for middle school in Nordhoff, what might that look like for a student? Is that two days a week, or we don't know that yet?
That is all part of the negotiations that we'll be doing. So we have moved, as part of our tentative agreement with the union, we've moved away from having a return to campus committee. And instead, we're going to be negotiating the schedule with the full OFT negotiating team and our full admin team. And so we won't have that until it's been negotiated and comes in a tentative agreement. But we're meeting on Monday to talk about the middle school schedule. So, and then the following week about the high school schedule. So it's in progress. And as part of our tentative agreement, we have a whole list of things we'll be doing between now and March 29th, site walks and collaborative things like that.
Tiffany, for the fourth quarter, if as we move to a hybrid model, for students who opted out of coming back right now at the junior high and high school level, who may have felt like 1 hour just wasn't, they weren't willing to have that risk for that small of a reward, is there the possibility that they return with hybrid? And so we're taking those kids into account also as we develop these models?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not basing it on the kids who are back right now. We'll be looking at another model that can accommodate more students in the fourth quarter. And as you can see in elementary, we're moving back to 4 days a week everywhere we can right now.
And in that new legislation that was in the AB 86, the requirement by the legislatures is, to the maximum extent possible, children will be on campus. And so, like, as we're moving forward, obviously that would be our guiding force, right? Like, as we're moving forward to make those plans. So I think it's really important that the public be aware that in passing that law, that puts us in a different mindset, where now it's the law that we are bringing forward as many kids possible as we can, and the campus will allow, while still abiding to the restrictions that are there for health and safety, right?
Yep. That is why we are moving forward with adding days back and collapsing cohorts as we can.
That's perfect. Thank you.
No, this is the last slide. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to chime in, and obviously I agree with everyone else. Is the sooner we can get kids on campus safely, the better.
And I will chime in to say, from the kids that I have talked to, my own, but also others in the community who have come back at the secondary level for this 1 hour a week or 1 hour every other week, it has made a tremendous difference for them. And I just want to say thank you to the teachers who are out there opening those classroom doors, because it really has made a difference in people's lives. So thank you.
I would just say to parents, I know you want answers and we're working, but there's a lot to work through. And I think maybe Rebecca, it was you that said, know that our focus is to get more students back for more time, as much as we can. And that it's not about a lack of willpower. We have to make sure we're following the rules. That's why we're not open yet, because we're not in the red tier yet. but we have these small cohorts, so we're doing what we can. And as soon as we can do more, we will. And that I know the administration wants, as much as the parents do and the teachers do, to be open in full as much as we can, and hopefully 4 to 5 days a week next year in the fall.
5 days for elementary school. We're committed to that, with, although like a shorter day every other week, so we can still continue with the professional development, but 5 days a week.
Yeah, I just want to add that with respect to middle and high school, we're obviously hearing, we've read comments, and I'm sure they reflect many other people of the same mind, which is that we really need to do everything we can in real time to update information as we have it, because people are, they're making really significant decisions right now for their kids' future. And they feel like, I think it was a shock to a lot of people to learn that we were not confident, or, we just don't know yet whether or not we will be, back to something approaching normality in the fall, particularly in light of, Biden telling us that we're all going to be immunized by June. And, I think that you've gone through all the reasons and all the realities, but I think just the sort of escalating the information to sort of real time, maybe through the board, if we have to have special meetings, et cetera, just to really try and percolate the information as it becomes available so people can make plans.
And I just want to say thank you for this. It's such a huge, daunting, challenging task. And I think Ojai has been exceptional in opening the doors early when a lot of people have not. And I would also add, last night in our board meeting, we had a board member say, what if we just ignore it all? Like, what if we just don't pay attention to the social distancing and we just don't do any of it? What happens, right? And the response was, public health will come shut us down. Like, we don't have the ability to go beyond what the legislation provides. So it becomes like people, I know the frustration, like I have my own children, but there is also a place to which we have no ability beyond what is in front of us. And I know for Dr. Morse is an incredibly creative, out of the box thinker. And if there's a way to get kids on campus, they will be there. Like, I have zero doubt that she will not figure it out somehow. And so, but I thank you for all the time and energy that this takes.
I just want to add one more thing, and very quickly, because of some of the public comments were referring to our teachers as being the problem, potentially, and I didn't hear that tonight, and I just want to point that out. What I heard were the limits of the county requirements, the COVID cases in the county, where we are, and all of that. Yes, we're going to sit down and negotiate with them. As I understand it, it's not about if, it's about how. So I just think we need to be fair with our instructors. This is not on them.
Yeah, and I thank you for saying that, Michael. I would say, our tentative agreement is to come back in a hybrid model. Like, we will be doing that. We just have to figure out the specific details. But we have had great negotiations, and we're excited that we have this initial tentative agreement, and then we'll continue to sort through the details. But we've met, every week now for hours and hours each week to work on this collaboratively. So they absolutely are partners in bringing our kids back. And our elementary teachers were so excited to have 5 days a week next year. They're so excited. So.
And we also have to remember, the current vaccine is 16 and up. So it's likely that half of our high school students might be vaccinated by the fall. And there will be new guidelines for fully vaccinated households. And, that might help change the requirements. It won't help the high school. Obviously, half of our students won't be vaccinated, but it might change guidelines, which would help everyone. So, and that's unfortunately something we have to wait for those in charge at the state level, at the county level. Unless there's anything further, I'd like to move forward. Okay. Adoption of the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Aye.
Michael?
Oh, shoot. Aye. Oh, yes.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. 6.2.1, certificated resolution. I'm sorry, non-reelection or release of temporary hourly certificated employees. Is there any question?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. 6.2.2, reduction or elimination of particular kinds of certificated services. I'll move to approve. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any questions or concerns or comments? Okay, now I'll move to approve.
I will second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. 6.2.3, dismissal, release of certificated management employees. Any questions?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. 6.3.1, approval of resolution in recognition of Arts Education Month. Would anyone care to read any part of this? Is there anything in particular that, actually there's one point that I would like to, unless somebody else would like to. I'm going to read the third whereas. Whereas only with the active support from our PTAs, Ojai Education Foundation, the Ojai Music Festival, parents, and others has the Ojai Unified School District been able to continue to incorporate the arts in its curriculum despite cutbacks in state funding for the arts. And whereas despite extreme limits on our capacity to teach the arts during COVID, our teachers have shown great creativity in using Zoom, have chosen to bring students back on campus when possible, and have shown how vital the arts are to our district and to our community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Ojai Unified Board of Education proclaims March as Arts Education Month and commends all our local volunteers and teachers for their stellar efforts to ensure continuation of arts education in our schools. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Aye.
Michael?
Definitely aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. Our second resolution in recognition of Women's History Month. Again, want to recognize that the district is holding another Place at the Table Engaged to Impact event around women's history. I know our librarians have been putting out great books on women who have done incredible work. I don't remember.
I'll read two little, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
That's what I was going to ask.
Okay, I'll read two little sections. Whereas women have played and continue to play critical roles in the economic, cultural, and social spheres of our nation's life by constituting a significant portion of the labor force, working in and outside the home, as well as providing the majority of the nation's volunteer labor force, and have been particularly important in the establishment of early philanthropic and cultural institutions in the country. And whereas women of diverse backgrounds have served as leaders in the forefront of progressive social change, not only to secure their own right of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also to abolish slavery, promote fairness, equality, and safety in the workplace, and advance the modern civil rights movement, which create a more equitable and just society. Therefore, it is fitting and proper that the Ojai Unified School District Board of Education proclaims the month of March 2021 Women's History Month and encourages all district schools to commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional activities. And I will move to approve.
And I will second. All those in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane, aye. That passes 5-0. Adjustment of adult education credit requirements. I would actually, I know this is normally just a quick little, yes, we've read it all and agree. I would like to actually make the suggestion that we lower our elective credits from 50 to 40 at the adult ed level. I just feel like, you know, these people who have made this decision to come back and to really make this effort to get that graduation and that diploma, I'd like to support them as best we could. And I think 50 is an awful lot. Any arguments for or against?
So are you actually suggesting that we change this now, or are you recommending that staff look at it?
No, I'm actually recommending that we motion to approve it with the change of 40 credits for electives.
And
I know more before I made that decision right now. I'd want it to be agendized so that somebody could speak to it who has more information about it than I do right now.
I might be able to speak a little bit to it, if you don't mind. There was a conversation that came from a question about this, and the staff did, they were in support of 40 credits. And I would just say the vast majority of the kids that come to adult ed are from Nordhoff. And so they usually come with plenty of credits, in fact, more than the 50. So to reduce it to 40 does truly benefit that person who's coming from probably no education and is really trying to do their best to get the academic credits that they need. And so, you know, potentially that lowering the threshold to 40 would benefit those people so they're not having to do extra work if they're truly coming from a situation where they haven't earned very many credits. And again, that's very few people.
So is there some reason why this wasn't proposed this way tonight then?
We had already published the agenda and it came from a board question. Right, which I sent to you and when I answered all the board questions. But I mean, essentially, if you look what we are proposing, so we had 20 credits in PE and 30 credits in elective. And so we were trying to just keep the credits at the same, 175. And so we just pulled all of those PE credits because it's hard to offer PE and monitor PE credits in this particular group of students. And so instead we just put all 50 in electives, but it does make sense instead of, it wasn't arbitrary, but it was the best place to put them, but we don't have to keep it at 175 total credits, right? So we could make it 165 and then only have 40 credits instead, which is still more than we currently have. We're really just reducing PE then, and then adding 10 credits to electives. Does that make sense?
It was me that sent that question. So yeah, obviously the agenda is published and we read it and then we send in questions. And my question was, is there any reason why we couldn't go to 40? And so I guess Tiffany or Cheryl had reached out to Javier and the staff and gotten an answer that no, there's no reason why it couldn't be. And I guess Cheryl, you said they support the 40 if we want to do that. So is that, do you want to hear more than that? Do you want to have someone come, or is that?
And also,
go ahead, Cheryl.
Just to let you know, there's not a lot of rush. So if you do want this to come back in the next board meeting, we can certainly do so. I just wanted to make it clear though that the staff is supportive of that request to change it to 40.
Based on the support of staff, I would be willing to do it.
The question that comes to my mind though is that currently we're at 30 elective credits and it was being bumped to 50 because of PE. And I'm wondering what the benefit is of bumping it up to 40 rather than leaving it at 30 and removing the 20 PE credits.
I believe some of that conversation just came with the comparison of other adult ed programs and the fact that they, you know, the alignment with how many credits they're requiring for their programs as well. So they wanted to maintain a little higher rigor than just going to 30. And again, many of the students that come over have PE credits. So those credits, it's not usually very hard for most students to get the elective credits. It's truly the people that are coming brand new to start an adult ed program that have to do a lot of work to earn those elective credits.
And you could do PE as your elective credits.
Correct. That's correct.
And so it sounds like, Jane, you have made a
No, I
motion.
guess I will make a motion to approve the adult credit requirement change with the modification of the elective credits moving to 40 and the total credits moving to 165. Is there a second?
I would second that.
All those in favor, Kevin?
Yeah, yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Can I abstain? I don't. I'm good.
Yes, you may. It's okay to say no too.
I just don't feel like I have enough information. I don't like, credits are a big deal to me, so that's uncomfortable.
Okay, Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane, aye. That passes 4 yeas and 1 abstention. I would say we could bring it back, but since it's passing anyway, I guess that's okay. 6.4.1, our other big item tonight, the second interim report. There's a big attachment for any of those in the audience who are still watching. And we have the wonderful sort of first 5 or 6 pages, which are so helpful to be able to read it more easily. Tiffany?
Yes, and I'm looking for my little Zoom up. There it is. So first I would like to welcome Taiwo Madison, who is our fiscal director, who prepared all of this first interim or second interim. Gosh, I keep doing that, which is a tremendous amount of work. And we also are in the middle of an audit right now. And so to have second interim and an audit kind of happening simultaneously is a lot of work. So thank you, Taiwo, for all of your countless hours in middle of the night work. So I'm going to.
I'm being audited. I have no work to do. We're being audited.
Yeah. So I have an overview that is based on the memo that's included in your packet, and then Taiwo can jump in and answer questions and provide any further details. So I'll just start. I show this slide every time just because I think it's important to know where we are. So we're right here in the second interim financial report. Sometimes the governor's budget comes out in January and we get excited because we're like, oh, there's this new program and there's funding for this new program and there's, you know, this exciting thing. Or sometimes the governor's budget comes out and we're like, oh, that's terrible. But it's important to remember the governor's budget is just a proposal, and there's all these months between when the actual budget gets approved and we get to start planning with that money. So second interim is really just looking at where we are compared to first interim. And if you remember, first interim is updated based on the adopted budget that we do in July. And so we compare where we are in March to where we had updated our budget in December. So based on our second interim numbers and our projections, we will actually end the 2021 school year with a projected undesignated fund balance of $786,000. And I'll go through that in a later slide. That's higher than the approximately $170,000 that was projected at first interim. So when we came to you in December, we said, good news, we're going to have $173,000 that's of undesignated funds that's on top of our 3% fiscal uncertainty reserve. And now we're coming and saying that's going to be $786,000 projected right now in March. Again, knowing March is not the end of the school year, and there still could be some changes for sure. So what has changed since then? So we have some additional revenue, some additional state revenue of $251,000 and change. And I'll show you in a little bit. Sorry, there's random bugs in my office. Well, I'll show you in a moment some of our COVID funding and what that looks like. We have had some changes in our expenses. So we have spent $195,000 approximately less on certificated salaries, but conversely have spent $190,000 more than we had at first interim on classified salaries. So that's ABC staff. And then corresponding to that is an increase in employee benefits. So also in classified salaries, that's extra custodial work, that's our COVID monitor, Brandon Lipton. So there's some increases there. We've spent $110,000 on increased services and other. Some of that are things like COVID testing, which is free, but we were paying for COVID testing in our old program that we were using. And we've spent $192,000 less than we thought at first interim on books and supplies. And so overall, when you balance all of that out, we have about $100,000 more in expenditures than we had projected in December. But again, we had $250,000 in additional revenue. So looking overall at our numbers, our beginning fund balance is $1.6 million. Total revenues about 28, our total expenditures about $27 million. And so overall, our increase in fund balance from when we came to in December is $600,000 more. Our unadjusted ending fund balance is about $2.2 million, or projected to be $2.2 million. In that, there's some other things, stores and small things, I took those out, but our big buckets of that are our state mandated reserves at 3%, which is $835,000. Our legally restricted programs. So this is money that is designated for a particular source, like say, for example, CTE, from a CTE grant that we can't just spend on other things. It's designated for a particular program. And then our undesignated balance here of $786,000. So let's talk a little bit in the packet. You have our multi-year projections. I didn't spend a lot on multi-year projections because I know that they're going to change significantly because we are going to have some COVID funding that I'll show you in just a moment, and we don't know how much that is. So that's going to change some of those multi-year projections. So I think we should potentially pay more attention to those as we get closer to our budget development for next year than we have right here. But I do want to talk a little bit about enrollment. So we are being very conservative with our enrollment projections. And I'll show you in just a moment, actually, that our enrollment projections are conservative, but we have not been in county-wide. We actually have not had the same enrollment loss that other districts have had around the county. So I'll actually just show you that right now. So this is all of the districts in the county, and you can see this is from the 1920 P1 and to the 2021. And you can see across the county significant declines here. We have the lowest at just 0.31%. With 7 students, a change in 7 students, with the exception of Oxnard Union High School District. I don't really count that because they are only high school and they're seeing an enrollment bubble that's hitting them at the high school. So they're actually seeing increased enrollment, although they didn't get funded for those additional 732 students that they had come into the district because of a little bit of the hold harmless, and they kind of got caught in a loophole that didn't benefit them. but you can see overall the county had declining enrollment, but we are the least declining enrollment. So that's good news. But looking forward, we do have bigger graduating classes than we have incoming. So our enrollment at kindergarten is stabilizing. And so we have about the same number of students projected to come in every year, 140, 142, somewhere around there. But our larger classes at Nordoff have 180 graduating. So every year we are losing 40 students, even though our enrollment in our lower grades and our incoming numbers are stabilizing. So I just want to point out that you see that in our multi-year projections, and you'll see that in our staffing projections as well, that we're planning for that enrollment bubble to really move into our secondary as our graduating classes, our larger graduating classes are moving out from the district. So looking at our COVID funding gets a little bit complicated. There are so many different pots of COVID funding, which we are eternally grateful for. They have been really helpful for us this year. One of the public comments said, you know, we spent a lot of money. We've spent $1.8 million this year on various related COVID expenses. And I'll show you the breakdown in just a moment, but just for a little bit of context about the pots of funding. So we have what we call ESSER 1, which we received. Our allocation was about $335,000. That is spent for the most part. There's 3 funds that make up this bucket of funds, which are the Learning Loss Mitigation Fund. So ESSER is federal funds. The Learning Loss Mitigation Funds are made up of the COVID Relief Fund, the GEAR, and the General Fund. And so between those, you can see that we had about 1.6 million, a little bit more than that. So all of these funds in green, we've received and for the most part expended or encumbered. But we have additional funding coming in, and those numbers, we're not solid in what those numbers are, or we haven't received the funds yet. So we have ESSER 2, which is again, federal funds. We have GEAR 2, state funds. We have in-person instruction grants. So this is the AB 86 that Rebecca was referring to, that was proposed in January to be funds for schools that reopened by a certain timeline. Can't remember what crazy timeline, February 1st? Forget what they were, something that was like, yeah.
Timeline.
Yeah, undoable, but was just recently passed. And so schools that are reopened by April 1st have eligibility for these grants. And then every day that you're not open thereafter, you get a smaller percentage, or you lose funding essentially every day. So to Rebecca's point about the legislation saying, you know, the default is kids in classrooms, the funding matches that sentiment. So our in-person instruction grants.
Can I ask a quick on that? Is there a definition of what constitutes in person? Is there some minimum or anything like that you're aware of? AB 86?
There is. We meet it, so I don't remember exactly what it is, but we are in person. So I don't remember all the details because they didn't apply to us because we all already qualify. So
for with respect to our middle school and high school as well as K through 5?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we are in person. That's why you see some of the districts really gearing up. And that's why the move to the red tier is problematic, right? And then any delay in moving to the red tier because there's this funding that's tied to it. And there's a lot of moving pieces around that. And then I believe the House was set today at the federal level to vote on, and I don't know the name of it, but the COVID relief bill that was passed by the Senate that would also have additional COVID funding for schools. embedded in that. So we have some big question marks in terms of how much exactly we'll have in COVID funding, but we anticipate that, you know, it'll be a minimum of probably $3 million between everything that's here in orange in the bottom. And so that's what funds that additional staffing that you saw at the elementary school and hopefully the secondary schools if necessary. So part of our planning for secondary is we need to know kind of how much money we're going to have to support additional staffing. And so that all should be coming out relatively soon. I know there's some lookup tables for some of these out there, but I want to make sure we have the exact number before we commit that number to staffing. So what have we spent our COVID money on? Because as you look at the second interim, it's kind of embedded in there, but this is just a general breakdown of our COVID specific expenditures. So you can see we spent about 50% of our $1.8 million on books and supplies. And I know that sounds like a lot, but that includes Chromebooks, that includes software, that includes Zoom licenses, that includes, you know, our hydrostatic backpack sprayers, additional tents on campuses, thermometers, pulse ox, all of that kind of stuff is our books and supplies. And then 22% on additional certificated salaries, 15% on classified salaries. That includes our COVID extra duties and responsibilities pay that we had in December, and also our hazard pay for CSEA that we tentatively agreed to way back in January. And then you can see with those corresponding increase in salaries, we have an increase in benefits, and then services, which again are things like our COVID testing falls into services. And then that 1% for other equipment is about $25,000. That was, I believe, for some equipment, some cleaning equipment that we purchased. That's the last slide. Any questions?
I have a question. I'm confused about the degree to, so all this is in the second interim, like it's embedded in there, like in terms of the revenues and everything, it all includes all of the COVID money, or is it, or is the COVID sort of standalone from that budget?
Well, can you confirm that?
The COVID money for this year is in the budget. It's part of it. You'd see it in the federal and state revenue.
Got it.
And there's a portion of the next year's budget in the multi-year that had the start of the COVID money, but it's not. It doesn't have anywhere near all the expected ones that Tiffany just talked about for next year.
Right, because of all the uncertainty she went through just now. Got it.
And in terms of right now, we're looking at the difference only being 251,000. That's because at the first interim, we already knew all our COVID funding.
Right.
That's why we made the decision at the end of December for that extra pay, hazard pay or whatever it was.
The other piece is just a little complicated, and I'll just share this with you so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, is sometimes I can't see what I'm sharing with you. Give me just 1 second so I can share the right screen. Zoom is very annoying. Okay, never mind, I can't show you. But if you look back, it like disappears. If you look back, well, you can't look back at the slideshow, but in there, in the COVID funding, you can see there's all these different dates. It's really kind of crazy how many different dates. Some of them, every single pot of money has a different date it has to be spent by. Some of them all the way through 2023. And so as we determine these numbers, we want to be really thoughtful and have kind of a long-term spending plan of what we do with that funding. And then we have to be really thoughtful about what comes out of what bucket so that we spend we spend down our buckets sequentially based on how long we have to spend the money. So the COVID funding, man, that's like almost a full-time job just to manage all of that in itself and to keep track of all of that and where everything is going and when it has to be spent by. And then there's just additional reporting. So every single bucket that you saw has additional reporting requirements. And Taiwo, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like every 2 weeks we have some kind of report that we have to do for this money. And that's just, it's great to have additional money, but it's also additional work.
Yeah, I actually wanted to cry because I'm trying to do my budget and every 2 seconds this thing's due Monday. This is due, so it's like, it doesn't take that long to do the reporting, but it's definitely pain in the butt. They have it every time, and some of the times it's repeat of money that you're basically re-reporting what you already reported, or because some other funds we hadn't used but you still got to go through and do a report. So it's a pain from.
And it's going to get worse. And we didn't add any additional staff in the business office, even though we added some significantly additional work. So
when we see in the budget the 194,000 that we didn't spend on certificated salaries, that as we hire substitutes, that will change significantly going forward.
Yeah. So I would say, I don't know how often we've gotten to say this in Ojai Unified recently, but for the moment, money is actually not our biggest problem. We have other problems, but it's nice to have a little bit of relief and to be able to have the funding that we need to be able to do the work that we need to have kids on campus and to serve them safely.
And with respect to the ADA and the minimal, loss of, that was seven students effectively, 7 full-time ADA. Is there, I vaguely remember that there's some, sort of provisional rules with respect to ADA because of all the chaos and COVID. So are those numbers ADA wise reliable, or how do we, when were they fixed? When did we establish what our ADA was for 2021, since 21 continues to at this moment?
Yeah, so that's October. So we have an October, I don't know, we used to call it CBEDS count day, but CBEDS doesn't exist anymore, but I still call it CBEDS count day. So we have a count day in October, so that all that P1 ADA is from that. I think what you're referring to, Kevin, is a hold harmless that we have in funding. So essentially we are funded, all of those districts that lost enrollment. So if you saw Conejo lost, 2,000 kids, they are, and of course you can't absorb that in a school year. So all of that is part of a hold harmless, so that we are funded on last year's ADA. So even though 7 kids don't count against us right now, and there's a lot of work. I was just on a legislative panel this weekend. There's a lot of discussion about, do we continue a hold harmless next year, right? Because theoretically next year we would be funded on this year's ADA. So we're still counting, but that seems kind of crazy to fund on this year's ADA. The other thing that I continue to push on with every legislative meeting I'm at, and anyone who will listen, I'm sure other people are bringing this up, but I'm the only one I hear bringing this up, is I am really concerned about our unduplicated pupil count, right? So it is great that we have free food for students and that we're able to serve all of our families regardless of their income, but it has been incredibly hard to get forms back then. So our free and reduced lunch, and we have spent like untold hours calling our families and saying, can you please fill out this form? And they're like, but why would I fill out a free and reduced lunch form when I already get free food, right? And so it's one of those unintended consequences from having this great program. But our Title I is based on our unduplicated count. Our supplemental funds are based on our unduplicated count. And so our unduplicated count is lower than it was last year, even though we're continuing to try and get all of that, all of those forms in. So I am pushing at the state level. I'm on a couple of statewide, I'm on the AXA legislative policy committee. And so I am pushing with all of our reps, our legislators, and our AXA reps to have a hold harmless for our unduplicated count as well next year. The good news is today they just announced that they're extending the free feeding through summer and through September of next year. I think the end of September next year. So in terms of students' access to food, it's not problematic, but it's problematic for our potential budget in the future.
Any other questions or comments?
And along those lines, it wouldn't even work to just have a hold harmless and use old numbers, because we know that we have more than we used to. So even we really need a count. We need door knockers or something, how they do the census. I don't know.
Yeah, we have tried, some districts have something called direct cert, which means that, you know, if you participate in county programs, WIC, for example, you're directly certified with us for free and reduced lunch. So we've been doing direct cert, we've been reaching out, we've been doing flyers, we've actually been looking at our processes to make sure that internally we're processing our forms. But I can understand the logic, right? Why would I fill out a free and reduced lunch form right now? Even though we try and explain to you why that's so important.
Totally off topic, but does anybody else hear rain? I think it might be raining.
I got a text that it was snowing in Santa Barbara.
No.
I would like to ask if there is a motion to approve the second interim report.
I'll move to approve.
I will second. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
All those in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane, aye. That passes 5-0.
And thank you for all the work and that goes into that. It is an extreme amount of work, so thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany and Tyrell.
Also scary presenting to a CBO, I'm just gonna say.
I try to be really nice, and like, I know it's a lot of work. So I do really appreciate the business team and Taiwo and Dr. Morris for all your work with that.
Before we move on to the bond update, I just realized that we missed one of the comments on 5.2. So if you will allow me, I will read it now. Is that okay? It's from Kelsey Zimmerman. Dear school board members, thank you goes out to the superintendent, the administration, and especially the teachers who are showing up every day for our children. I know how incredibly difficult and ever-changing this environment has been, especially for teachers that also have K-12 kids of their own at home. I'm proud to call some of my friends OUSD teachers and coaches. You have given to these kids year after year, following them along their journey through schools. I'm a staunch supporter of the public schools, and as a parent and community member, I want to see Ojai schools succeed each and every time. I want my kids at Matilaha and Nordhoff. I want my nieces and nephews at elementary level in the district. I want everyone to know that parents can both be empathetic, appreciative, and also be advocates for their kids to be in person for K-12 full-time for the fall of 21-22 school year. This also doesn't always come across on social media, So please be open to parents' experiences with their children. They are seeing the very real struggles as a result of not being in person at school at all levels. Now that we are coming up on a year with barely any access to campus for our middle and high school students, and hearing the phenomenal job our county has done in vaccinating teachers and staff, 65 plus, essential food and ag workers, caregivers, and the most vulnerable in our community, it's time that we parents get a commitment to the fall schedule so that we can make informed decisions on where we'd like to enroll our kids. Everything in me wants my daughter to follow her brother's footsteps to go to Matilaha, but honestly, if she isn't back full-time in person, I will not be able to enroll her there. I want my son at Nordoff for his junior year, arguably the most important year as far as college applications go. I do not want him taking only 2 classes for a semester because of block schedule. I am not alone. This has been the topic every parent has been talking about for the past month as registration has been opening at private and public schools. While we've watched schools in other states return to full-time, we now watch schools in our own county reopen in hybrid at a rapid rate. Ventura Unified School Board voted to bring back elementary full-time starting April 12th, and they will be bringing back secondary in hybrid starting April 1st. Canojo Unified, which has Newberry Park, Westlake, and Thousand Oaks High School, brought them back hybrid this past Monday. Moore Park High School has been back since November. Obviously, getting them to full-time is going to take some creativity and work. So this is a plea to everyone in their power to do everything they can to get these middle and high school students back to school full-time in the fall. I ask that the school board be involved in looking at specifics to the COVID money and instruct that we return to full in the fall for all K through 12. I ask that everyone with their power collaborate together to find creative solutions to address the issues. Everyone should have a voice at the table: teachers, staff, parents, teacher organizations, community members, students, and administration. As for the COVID money we will be receiving even more of, please invest in before or during the summer, adding a HEPA filtration, add scrubber systems to all classrooms, changing furniture, creating larger outdoor spaces wherever it takes for the secondary students to return full-time. Do not make our kids continue to bear the weight of this pandemic. From their perspective, they see things opening up everywhere for everyone, except they are left with crumbs. Parents are feeling unheard and frustrated as emails don't get returned, or this decision continues to be kicked down the road. We all know we have COVID and Zoom exhaustion, but I have never known Ojai to shy away from a challenge. So how are we all going to show up? Sorry, that was late. Kelsey, my apologies. And thank you for writing a nice comment. 6.4.2, bond update. Is there actually a presentation, or are we just?
There is not tonight. We decided to wait till next month.
Thank you. I appreciate that, since it's 8:45.
Not a problem. So
that great video, which was kind of, they were going to show a PowerPoint, and I was like, we have a video instead. So video presentation tonight.
right. Obviously you guys all received the update. So just a couple highlights that we wanted to share. The library's a few weeks away. They're installing carpet now. It looks good. Again, you'll get that in the PowerPoint next month. The dining hall passed the Ventura County Health Inspection and has been turned over to Francis' team. So that's super exciting. Alan's really pushing that one across the finish line. So big kudos to Alan on that one. The Nordoff locker room refresh that we started is actually a really exciting project. I think I touched on it last month, but we are doing most of that, all of that so far in-house, and just kind of going through the days, patching the holes, getting some of the drywall done. We'll be replacing all the plumbing fixtures. And again, that's all being handled by our new skilled maintenance person for the bond. And Kelly's doing a fantastic job in that as well. And I think the other exciting one is the RFQ we put out for architectural services. Obviously, we all know we have a long list of large projects to do with Measure K coming up. And so Alan and I put out the RFQ, and we received 21 responses from firms all over Southern California, from Central to Southern California. So that was really exciting. And we're going through and rating those, Alan, myself, David Rogers, and then we'll be conducting some interviews and then bringing that to you probably in April as well. But it was nice to see such a good response. So Anything, Alan?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm excited to see the Matilahaw project come to a close, and we're we're almost ready to sign it off. The one thing that's holding us up on signing off or closing that out with the DSA is that there's a requirement that we have an extra fire department hookup or connection that is currently being installed by Casitas Water District, and so that's timing of that's couldn't be better. That's coming together, but yeah, we did the final punch list walk on Monday or Tuesday this week, and it was all that's left is just things like getting the warranty packages together and a few things like that. I think there's one doorknob that has to be fixed. That's about it.
Our new tables have a 5-year warranty, so we're excited to make sure that, excited for our kids to see them. And when you look at them, you think, oh my gosh, these are so nice. How are these going to last with kids? We made sure we got the ones that had the warranty, so they will hopefully be in good shape for quite some time, even with middle school kids.
Yes.
I'm super excited that the cafeteria is finishing, so we can throw more projects your way to have you do. Now that that big one's off of the plate, we can add more to your plate.
Yeah,
we have quite the list.
Yeah, we've got a good list, and Adam and I are just really kind of chomping at the bit to dive into some of those, but we do have to go through the processes of getting the right architects and getting the right preliminary work done up front so that we can tackle those with fervor.
Well, in future school boards, we will thank you for finishing out the projects and completing them so that they don't have to deal with that someday.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask about the San Antonio project, the paving. Did that get finished? I don't remember. That was completed.
That is on the home stretch. We're putting up some exit signs, entrance signs, some signage. There's a little bit of work to be done in the county right away to fill in some areas that are a little lower than they should be. The handrails on the ramp still have to be welded up with a certified welder and inspected while they do that. And there is a new path of travel that was done in asphalt back by the Kinder area that it needs one more layer of asphalt and some smoothing out to get that through. A little bit of fencing done that the posts were installed today for. That'll be done in another day or so. So we're just really coming down the home stretch on that. This contractor is a challenge to work with at times, but we've been working with him and getting it done.
It does feel weird. Alan and I were commenting that we don't have anything on the agenda tonight to formally approve. I think it's one of the first times we haven't had one since Alan and I came on board. So it made us feel a little funky, but looking at the list, we definitely have our work cut out for us over the next couple of years still. So
they have been using, by the way, Shelley, they have been using the drop-off zone and the drive-through lane at the school now for a little over a week. And Robin says it's working really well.
Oh, that's good to hear. It's always, good to see how it works in actuality. We always think things are gonna work until you really try it out. It just doesn't happen. So that's good to hear.
Any other questions about the update? Cool. It's really raining outside right now.
Thank you, Adam and Alan. I would also like to add on, as terms of a budget update, Tiffany had been working with our bond sales person to refinance our old bonds from 2011 and 2014, and even a little from 1997. With the new interest rates and the new sale, we were able to save our taxpayers over $2.5 million over the life of those bonds. So I really appreciate Tiffany, you being on top of that and helping us spend the money on what Adam and Alan are doing rather than on bank fees.
Thank you for bringing that. I knew there was something in my superintendent's report that I had presented. I would just share, we were, Oxnard Union and Ojai, we were both selling bonds in the same kind of time frame. We sold our bonds, I think, just a few days before, and we got an excellent rate, and it was not the same for Oxnard Union. And so we were just like right on the cutting edge of having the best timing. we could have had. And if we had just been a few days later. So thank you to the board for approving that so that we could be like right on it before interest rates began to change.
How did you know about Oxnard Union's less than great experience?
Because I got to hear lots of phone calls when they weren't getting sold and all the rating calls and and I was just, and he was like, and I saw you were on the sheet too, and you already went. And yeah, so I was kind of sitting in the corner going, like we did good.
Saying, stop talking about my district at your meetings.
Pick us out. So sometimes it's good to beat them. Thank you, Adam and Alan.
No problem. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure I'm back on. 6.4.3, our comprehensive safe school plan. Obviously long plans, few changes from last year because we've also been making huge COVID safety plans. Don't know if there's any discussion or if it's just a.
And I would say, Jane, there are actually no significant changes in this. We just didn't spend a lot of time updating these because we haven't been on campus. And as you mentioned, we're doing our other COVID plan. So this is, for all intents and purposes, the exact same plan that you approved last year.
And I hope that the concerns that were brought up by the union are looked at.
Yeah. And Angie, I remember talking with you last year about selecting the right people to be in those volunteer jobs because some people are really good in emergencies and some people are not great in emergencies. And so we want to make sure that you're comfortable and that you know if you're good in an emergency or not, so that we can make sure that you are comfortable doing that job and not just assigning it to you. So I remember we had a long discussion about that and making sure that we address that for sure.
Thank you.
So I will move to approve the plan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
You've moved around where guys are. You guys, Rebecca?
Aye.
There you are. Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane, aye. That passes 4-0. The first reading of December board policy updates, 6.5.1. Emily, you are still there. I was going to text you. I can't believe it. I'm going to let you go and first and ask your questions because I know they're about the Golden State Merit issue.
Yes.
And if that's okay with everyone, that we skip to that for her and then we can go back to other pages.
What page is that on, Jane?
54.
Go easy on your cross-examination, Emily.
So for those listening in, the page 54 is, and for those who might have forgotten, it's discussion of Golden State merit sort of badges or ribbons sort of attached to the diploma. And there's some extra, it's not just the Golden State Merit diploma, there's a state seal for biliteracy, for civic engagement, and for several other, for history, English, math, almost at every level. So I guess my first question before Emily goes is, do we have any of these currently on our diploma?
Yes.
Okay.
We have the Golden State Seal. I believe I sent to the board an overview. Around 60 kids, I believe, received the Golden State Seal. Those criteria are set by the state. The State Seal of Biliteracy, we don't, although we are working on that. And we should have that in place, and we're looking forward to participating in that. And then the State Seal of Civic Engagement is brand new. And so we have not yet implemented that and have not begun the planning for that, but I believe that will actually likely go through our curriculum committee as a starting place.
Go ahead, Emily.
Okay. As it was mentioned before, we discussed in our Sunday meeting the fact that we think these awards would be of value as long as they're rigorous enough and difficult enough to attain. And in our conversation, I think we determined just one question. And it seems that the qualifications for some of these awards, especially the Civic Engagement Award, are subjective, such as be engaged in academic work in a productive way. And our question was, who would decide that? Would it be a teacher, a grade in a government class, or an administrator?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's, as I was just sharing, we haven't started this yet. And so I think the criteria will be developed collaboratively. And then there will be some hard metrics around that, right? Because you're right, that does seem very subjective. What do we mean by that? So we want to make sure that as we develop this, this is, either it's based on grades or scores or something like that.
Okay, thank you. I think that was it.
I'm glad you asked that, Emily. I had the same question because it does seem very subjective, although I really loved the last line of that it's also available to those with unique or unconventional expressions of civic engagement. I worried that it would be very narrow and very subjective and maybe unknown to students. So it's important to me also that kids know that they could reach for these merit seals, that it's not just for those who kind of are in the know, but that we broadly make it known that these are available if we choose to adopt them.
I actually have, Shelley, on my list in my notebook for next year, on my next year page, I have a list about adding a slide to our future freshmen or to our orientation about these different diplomas, and just so parents are aware of them and can talk to their students about them, because they don't know how well they're advertised, although we do have students who are receiving at least the first one.
Honestly, I have a kid graduating this year and I didn't know anything about it. So yeah, we could do a better job of letting people know. And I would also, as I mentioned to you earlier, but I'll say it here also, like to see the how do I say it? Make sure that these are being distributed equitably, that we have representation from a broad array of students that are able to achieve these, and use that as a metrics to make sure that our campuses are meeting the needs of all students, that all students are able to achieve this. So we can use that as a metrics in our equity goal.
Yeah, I agree. And as we, again, because we only have this one, but we definitely want to build in a regular review for equity.
And actually, I'm sorry, Emily, now that I think about it, there was a question from one of the seniors that was asking, what do they call those sort of at the end of the year, this kind of a little awards that you get in class?
Are they the academic letters?
Yeah. Is that possibly something that would be assisting in getting someone those badges?
I can definitely look into that. The Golden State criteria is just set by the state. So essentially we run a report and send it to them based on their criteria. But I can definitely add that to the list as we consider this.
I'm not sure I understood that question.
I guess.
Do we have academic letters? I think I've asked that before and gotten an I don't know. Do you mean like you get a letter for varsity sports?
No, I think, remember in the spring there's that sort of like, there's a night where it's done for seniors, but there's I think it's just the open house night when they say English 1 and they call up all these students, and then they say English 2, and that they always announce sort of some recognition for each subject area, right, Emily?
Yes, last year each teacher for each class chose 2 students to be the recipient of the award just based on classwork and participation. And then you get a little badge.
So that's me, I think, confusing that with, I didn't realize that we actually already have some of this in existence. I thought this was all new, but now I see that it's in black, so that means it's not new.
I do have a question about the which one? The civic engagement one. It's saying that these are state established criteria. So I'm just wondering, did the state give us any guidance in what some of this ambiguous language means, or is that up to us?
Cheryl, I don't know if you've received that, but
In a meeting I was in, I was under the impression that we would set some local criteria to probably clarify.
yeah, I think, again, because it's new, but the other ones are very set. This one, I think, has some flexibility.
Well, I really like the biliteracy one. I think it's about time.
I agree, Michael. That one I'm really excited about because it's also really important for getting a job. I think.
And if you don't mind, Tiffany, I'm gonna, I had a question because it sounds like this is, you hear this and you think, oh, this is for non-English native speakers to, develop their English language skills. And the question I asked is, does this go both ways? If you are a if you're, anyway, is it parity both ways? And you said it is. And so to me, that actually doubles the effectiveness of this program.
Yes.
So in terms of these, sort of passing these board policies, is there a change or are there any comments or is what's written? Do we want to, I'm trying to move the screen. It's like, oh, that's Tiffany's.
How would you like me to move?
There's nothing. Like sometimes we take things out or we add things or they're optional. Green means optional. Is that correct, Tiffany?
Yes.
So biliteracy, I'm totally in favor of. Michael, you just expressed you were. Is there anything that we're not, that we sort of don't want to add in?
I would suggest that you would probably add these as a chunk, right? So if you said on this particular section, if you said, we don't want to offer the state seal of biliteracy, or we don't want to offer the state seal of civic engagement, then you would delete that section. But I think the language within that section is likely not optional, if that makes sense. So, but the entire section is optional.
Right.
So I'd suggest maybe not changing the wording of these.
Yeah, that's what I guess what I'm saying. Like the civic engagement one is very interesting to me, but my mind goes to, it seems like a lot of work for staff to figure that out. And do we have the staff to do that?
If we adopt it now, does it go into effect for the next school year? Or
we would try and work on the criteria probably this school year to have it in effect and to be able to be earned next school year.
And what, to Jane's point, does that seem feasible? Does another year make a difference? Like if we wanted to bring this back next year?
I am not the right person to ask because I think we can do everything and anything. So I would ask Cheryl if she thinks that's feasible, because I'm going to have a different answer.
I think that it's possible that we could have meetings to get started and potentially have the criteria ready. What I don't know, though, is if a kid could actually earn it by next year, because a lot of these are kind of a layered effect with the different things that they do specifically throughout their high school experience.
Right, but a freshman or sophomore could start working towards.
Yeah, it's possible.
Hey, that was a good answer, Cheryl. I like it.
Do my best.
Can we adopt it and say for the 2022-23 school year? Or once it's adopted, it's adopted?
I would suggest adopting it. Sorry, Cheryl.
Yeah, I mean, I think adopting it doesn't mean that we have to have students doing it. It just means we can, correct?
So we could change that shall to may. The superintendent or designee may present.
Yes. Thane will be happy.
I can hear him whispering in my ear.
You write that down.
Any other changes to that particular section? Okay, we'll probably go back to the beginning. Thank you, Emily, for hanging out so long. I hope you were doing homework in between.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, Emily.
All right, Emily.
Yeah, Emily.
My first comment is on page 3. Does anyone have something before that? I have to go back to it and find out what it was. Oh, it says the governing board of the SELPA will support, let's see, it's 3, number 4A. Let's see. Now, beginning July 1st, 2023, an annual assurances support plan to demonstrate how the SELPA and its participating agencies are coordinating for purposes of assuring effective outcomes for students with disabilities, including a description of how the governing board of the SELPA will support participating agencies in achieving the goals. Is that us, the governing board of the SELPA?
No, well, it's me. So I go to SELPA meetings.
Okay.
And yes, we
My
are
question was
working on this.
Okay. So just so you know that's in there and that's something that already happens.
Yeah, it's in there. It happens. It's sorry, it's not super fun, but we do.
And then on that same number 8, verification that the plan has been reviewed. The plan has been reviewed by the Community Advisory Committee.
Yes, we do that too. We had at one of our recent meetings, SELPA governing board meetings, we had like parents come. And I know there's a community advisory committee.
Okay. My next comment is page 89. Does anyone have something before that? Come on, where's Thane?
I did have a question, but I asked it earlier. I can ask it publicly if you'd like. I was curious about the work permits and whether we were responsible. I know of employers who don't necessarily ask if kids have work permits, and I wondered if we were responsible in any way for those students.
No, that's on the employers. I mean, we want them to, but we don't have to police that. We just have to offer them.
And obviously I wrote the wrong page number because there's only 86
I
pages.
was gonna say, I don't know if you have more policies, but
it was under
I don't know where they came from.
It was under communications. Does anyone know where that was? Certificate, transitional kindergarten.
Was it so in the board bylaws potentially? So board member communications is on page
Like
79,
70, yeah, 79.
which might make sense instead of 89.
Ah, okay. Oops, 70.
Yeah, actually, I had a question here on this page as well.
You go ahead, Michael, with your question.
Okay, so the green, restrict access to a public forum. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I get, I get us talking to each other, in too many iterations to violate the Brown Act and all of that. And we're circumventing their right to access records, but I'm not quite sure I understand how our electronic communications could restrict access to a public forum. I'm not against it. I just not quite sure I understand it.
Oh, I think I asked a question about that too. I mean, I didn't ask one, but I think I have a note here. Does that mean we can't, trying to look up, we can't restrict, I was with you, Michael. I'm not, let me look for my.
I'm not even sure how I would do that.
It's optional. You can delete it if it doesn't make clear sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, I read it as being that the sort of back channel emails would have the effect of restricting access to otherwise would be a public forum. So as a means of not doing it publicly and thus restricting access to the public forum. I understand what you're saying. You're saying, you know, would it require you to conspire with somebody to put a lock on the door or something? Yeah.
Bring down the Facebook page.
Yeah.
If under that interpretation, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, and actually my comment was this red. I just thought it would be important to make sure we all saw that. Board members may engage in separate conversations or communications with members of the public on a social media platform to answer questions, provide information, or solicit information regarding a matter that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, as long as a majority of the board does not use the platform to discuss among themselves any business of a specific nature that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A board member is prohibited from responding directly to any communication from other board members regarding matters that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, or using digital icons to express reactions. Whenever a board member uses a social media platform to communicate with the public about district business or board activities, the board member shall not block access to a member of the public.
That's what it is.
That's the part that I had a question on too.
Concern was that it didn't seem to, unless I see it later, it didn't seem to say, you know, you're commenting, but you're commenting as an individual. I mean, you're a board member, but you haven't discussed that with other board members. So I'm not sure.
I think that's in reference to the Brown Act, and it's trying to get the majority of the board not to comment on the same thing because it would be a Brown Act violation. I think that's fairly common.
Well, I think this particular thing, the last thing, is actually what I would call the Trump codicil. It has it's similar to the when Trump tried to block people from his Twitter, and the courts held that it was inappropriate. I think this is basically saying, like, you can't be out on social media talking about district business, and then because somebody happens to have a different viewpoint, then you block that person so that they can't be part of that forum that you've created.
And actually, I think that is what that restrict access to a public forum is specifically talking about above.
Right.
And so that means on our personal social media platforms, does that mean you have to, how does that work with privacy issues? I mean, you know, I have privacy restrictions on my personal Facebook account, and I don't necessarily friend everybody. Does that mean that by not including people in the public that I am in violation of that?
I think only if you're conducting district business on social media.
And referencing like the public pages, like perhaps pages we create while you're running for board, that's a public board page for yourself, you know? I think it's in reference to those types of pages because you're not allowed to restrict, or you're not supposed to, from what I've heard, restrict comments of public in referencing board business on your social media platform.
On a social media account that you've made for your board position.
For public business, yeah.
So
And
when
even
I
then,
use my personal Facebook page and I promote the upcoming
Engaged.
play, and somebody doesn't like that, I mean, it's not for those types of things.
So
But if
could
you're
we
correct,
If
potentially,
you're promoting board business, it could be, right? Like, I think it's a slippery slope. Sorry.
that's what I'm wondering, is
So-
where am I on the slide?
if I could suggest, so this is, right, we have to add this, but we also have a board protocol document that we put together that's not these bylaws, but that provides additional information, and we have an upcoming retreat. If you'd like, we could leave this and then maybe develop some protocols that clarify those questions if you want. And we could do a little research into that and then provide some clarity in our protocols document.
that'd be good.
That could be helpful.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Add that to the agenda.
Are there any other questions on the board policy updates?
I had one more, and I asked Tiffany about it. Now I have to find it. On page, can never find a page number on these.
Yeah, it's
Certificate of Proficiency for High School Equivalency. Page 78, I think, according to my scroll bar. It says the superintendent or designee shall make information available to interested persons regarding the eligibility and examination requirements of each program. Interested persons shall register for the test directly with the testing service and pay the applicable fee. And my question was in regards to that fee and whether that fee is, yeah, I was using my scroll bar, so it's not the same 76.
Yeah.
Ah,
right. So I think that this is the,
whether it's a barrier for students in our district.
So
get your high school equivalency.
Right. I don't know if it's a barrier. There is definitely a fee for the GED, the high set, the CHESP. I think this is an example of where if we had a student that was struggling, and typically students would take this at Chaparral, right? And if we had a student that was struggling to pay for this, that's where Family Fund would, could potentially support that fee.
That's what I was thinking as well. I just wanted to make sure that we had something in place and that those who were helping students access the GED knew that supports were available if we had them.
We don't have very many students take the GED. I would tell you in terms of test fees, like something that we just recently realized is, the AP tests have a fee associated with them, and we Family Fund will help support. So you get a reduced fee from $100 to $50 approximately, and then Family Fund will help with that $50. But we didn't have a good process, and I know that students don't take AP tests because of the cost. And so we actually just maybe a week ago, Linda Jordan and Amy Zuniga helped. We cross-referenced all the students who are in AP classes with all the students who have families who have enrolled in Family Fund. And then we actually proactively reached out to them and said, we noticed you're in an AP class and haven't signed up for the test yet. Do you need assistance paying for it? And so your question is in line with policies and actually practices that we're trying to set up so that we can ensure that funding is not a barrier to any kind of testing in our district.
Great, I love to hear that. And it is a barrier, that AP test, if you're taking several AP tests, yeah, we opt out because it's.
Yeah, we were excited to put into place, and then we'll make sure every year from now on that we have that as part of a system, and we're a little bit earlier in doing that. So maybe in December, we would do that cross-reference. So again, it's important for families to sign up for Family Fund, which requires a free and reduced lunch application. So there's lots of pieces for that.
I think that was my last question though, Jane.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, is there, I guess that's an action item, yes, to approve the updated board policies. I'll move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Kevin?
Sorry, couldn't find my unmute. Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane? Aye. That passes 5-0. Approval of the skate park lease renewal with the city of Ojai. Extending I think that's the only change, is extending it for a 20-year lease, terminating on December 31st, 2044.
So there are no changes from the last time you saw this, and the last time that this came before you, you just wanted some information about why they were asking for such a long lease, and also why it was coming to us when it doesn't expire until December 21st of 2023, which is when we'll be spending the last of our COVID money. But I spoke with James Vega at the city, and essentially they're trying to honor some of the original folks who put together the skate park. And they may want to make some improvements. And so they're asking for this now so that they can kind of plan for that honoring, and then also some of the improvements. And as we talked about it the last time this came to you, it's easier to get grants if they have a longer stable lease. And so that's the additional information that I have for you.
I looked through that history. It looks like maybe there was at one point a 20-year. It's like maybe there was maybe a 10-year, a 20-year, a 3-year, but no.
Yeah.
I'm going to support it.
Is that a motion?
I will move to approve the new lease.
I'll second.
All those in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Michael?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Rebecca, you were muted.
Aye.
You, Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane, aye. That passes 5-0. 6.5.3, our superintendent's contract. We've been a little remiss on getting to this. We missed it last year. So we did, sorry, I'm waiting for it to open up. As the document says, we'd like to discuss and possibly take action on extending the superintendent's contract through June 30th, 2025. We'd like to discuss providing a raise beginning July 1st, and we will be discussing the budget for continued coaching. I would like to propose that we discuss and vote on items 1 and 3, but wait on item 2 until we know a little bit more about our budgets for the future years. I don't know how.
So I'll kick it off. I'm comfortable with the term of the renewal. I also think that given what we've been going through, there's a good basis to continue with the coach, although I would propose that we kind of reduce it so we ratchet it down over the years to maybe like $5,000.
Is there any, is there any other issues, concerns?
I would support that, and I just want to make note of coming back to discuss a pay raise. I know we didn't last year, and so in the time that Tiffany's been with us, we haven't had that discussion. So I think it's important that we do when we have the information that we need to make that decision.
I also agree.
Yeah, I would like to, my personal opinion is that I believe a raise is important, but I want to have knowledge of, you know, what's best for the district, and before we decide on that amount.
I'll move to approve if.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Kevin?
Yes.
Michael? You.
No, I'm getting my mute button backwards. Aye, sorry.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
And Jane, aye. That passes 5-0. Future agenda items? No comments?
Yeah, when we were talking about the bond stuff, something did occur to me and I've sort of lost track of where we are on it now. And I wouldn't mind like a little update on the Maricopa project and the Nordhoff driveway stuff. Has just sort of, has anything happened with that? And just curious.
Okay.
I would love to, when we have a little bit more time, see something on SB 86 and the impacts that it'll have to Ojai.
Okay. It's not the end of the night, folks. We actually have to return to a closed session. We did not finish the last item on our list, even though we were late for the meeting. So do we need 5 minutes to reconvene or?
I say we go right into it, but do we also need to say that we will not be voting on anything, so we won't be coming back into open session?
That's correct. There was no action requirements, just information that the board will receive. Thank you, Shelley. So we are adjourning our public open session, I guess as you're calling it, and we will, shall we go, I think we're gonna have to go to Tiffany, to your meeting room, because mine is over, right?
Actually, if you make me a co-host or make me the host, and then you can leave.